to create super difficult situations for both of them. And as that manifests, that's whether the play calling choice, the situations that I'm asking, maybe them to do certain things specifically to put them in difficult situations.
One of those vying for the job is Mike White, who responded to McDaniel's comments this way.
Once you let your mind start wandering to that, you're kind of screwed. So I've taken the approach of just whatever my plays are that day, play them out, lead your group, no matter who it is. It could be Tyreek and Jalen. It could be the rookies. It could be anybody.
The final tune-up for Week 1. Dolphins, Bucks up the highway. Time now to get into it with Tobin and Solana on Gameday Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Gameday Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
And welcome on in, everybody. Another edition of Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside my co-host Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing us for the next 4 hours. We will get you ready for the Dolphins preseason finale. I always liked Solana. I love the fact that they make it a preseason finale. It makes it sound fancier, than the bums are going to play today. Like that, they try and make it sound like it's something. Oh, you guys have made it. It's the grand finale.
Right.
No one's playing. Enjoy this. Have fun, everybody.
When you use finale, people like to tune in, right? Series finale,
right.
Season finale. Hey, come watch a bunch of guys that you probably won't recognize by the third and fourth quarter because it's the grand finale.
I will hope that the trend continues, because the trend has been for this Dolphins preseason. It's been pretty entertaining first half, worst second halves of your life. Could not end fast enough. Oh, wait, we ran out of running backs, so we can't run the ball. You're going to have to suffer through 12 3-and-outs, both sides, and nobody's going to want to win this game. I'm hoping that the trend continues. Just give me a good half of football, give me a little entertainment. Whether Tua plays, whether he doesn't, I'm going to guess he doesn't. But Mike McDaniel did say some starters are going to go this week. What do you think, Solana? You think the appetite is, this is backup QB all the way, or do you need to see Uno a little bit more after his perfect drive last week?
I would be upset if Uno played today. Obviously, I want to see Tua Tagovailoa. Don't get me wrong, but I saw what I needed to see. Okay, he still has command of the offense. He didn't lose that.
Nope.
The more, what was it? Agile, mobile.
I believe nimble is the word.
Nimble. That's right. Nimble. The more nimble Tua. Hey, he looked pretty good to me, Tobin. So he was 5 for 5, perfect efficiency. He was throwing to no Tyreek, no Waddle, and he still looked to be in perfect rhythm. I would be upset if I saw Tua today, even for one series, because what's the point? We're not learning anything. He doesn't need these reps. You're literally just risking the most important player, the most important piece to the puzzle for nothing.
Yeah, it's one of these things. It's like I could get both sides of it, just because Tua has said he's a rep player. He does like being in there. He does like getting a little bit of work. And, there was that one time he didn't play in the first one. Then he had said, I wanted all the reps in the next practice. So, I'm not going to crush Mike McDaniel if he throws him out there for a series or maybe a couple, just to, because we don't have football for 2 weeks. So I don't know how Rusty wants to go. And I do think some guys have talked about the benefit of it. But as far as needing it, I don't think they need it. I think we've kind of shown the point. We've see how the thing operates much differently with him at the helm than it does with Mike White or Skylar Thompson. So I'd lean towards I wouldn't play him, just because he's not, he only doesn't seem like he needs it, but also injuries have kind of been this nuisance that have lingered the last couple of weeks in camp.
Yeah.
And I kind of just want everybody to get out as clean as possible, even though these injuries are happening in the practice too.
Had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle practiced this week, and I felt comfortable with them, getting a series in since they didn't play in games 1 or 2, then I would be cool with it just from the standpoint of, okay, go out there for a series and get to throw to the Lamborghini and the Ferrari, right? Like, fine. But Tyreek Hill had a brace on his hand this week. I know we're going to get to all this stuff. And Jalen Waddle was limited in practice. I know he didn't participate in 11-on-11s in the joint practice on Wednesday with Tampa. So to have him go out there, you don't even have River Craycraft anymore, Tobin. So to have him go out there, no Odell Beckham Jr. either. He'll probably start the season on the PUP list or still is. Like, what's the point for Uno to play, to throw to who? Guys that he probably won't be throwing too much to in the regular season. That's why I can't wrap my head around finding a reason for him to play today. I get what you're saying, by the way. Like, he wants to play. The reps are meaningful. All that stuff matters, but I think we got a taste of it already. And to have him go out there and throw to guys that he probably won't be throwing to makes very little sense to me.
Yeah, but I guess the counter to that would be not that he's not getting these reps in practice, not that he won't for the next, couple of weeks to lead up into the Jacksonville game. But if you are going to be in this sprung into action moment, like if River Craycraft is going to be out for a significant amount of time, if Odell Beckham is going to miss the first month of the season, and I guess we'll get a tell of that by next Tuesday once cutdown day happens, but maybe there is an element to, hey, get some run with Malik Washington, get some live reps with Eric Ezukama, like just a little bit more. I guess it's not a good argument, but I guess that is the argument to make it happen, is because, yeah, he already knows Jalen Waddle. He already knows Tyreek Hill, but do more live reps with Julian Hill and Jonnu Smith hurt? I don't think they hurt. You just, I guess, are only, running the risk of the unthinkable happening. Yeah. But, but as far as just like the work of it and being concerned, I just think that he's shown himself. He's been sharp. He's looked good in that drive that he was out there. I don't think it's necessary, but I wouldn't fully be against it either.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from. I'm just so, and you know how I'm approaching this season, Tobin. Like, I refuse to get fooled by the first month or two of the season. I want to see results at the end of the season come December and January. Not that these games won't matter in September and October, but I refuse to get fooled by it. And I think health is such a major factor for this team, considering what we saw last year, and really the last 2 years in the McDaniel era. I'm not concerned about Tua needing to win games with Eric Ezukama and Malik Washington. Like, if there's a situation early on where Tyreek has to miss a game, or Jalen, who's had injury issues, has to miss a game, and those are the guys you're relying on, like, I fully expect Tua Tagovailoa with actual game reps to be able to work on the chemistry and to work on being able to get those guys the ball week to week. But if Waddle and Tyreek are not healthy come December and January, like, to me, that's the bigger issue. So like, I'm not concerned about him needing reps with those guys. I want him to have the reps with his two main guys, because that's what's going to get this team to where we all want them to be.
Yeah, and then I suppose, like, you also look at it from the standpoint of, look, he's going to go out with a depleted product no matter what, because, yeah, Tyreek isn't going to play, and Jalen Waddle, who's already being cautious with, he's not going to play. You're likely not going to play Teron Armstead, so that means Kendall Lamb is going to be out there. You're already doing this with Liam Eichenberg in a position where he's, not wanting to be, even though he sounds more professional and comfortable at center. Like, he wanted to be a right guard. You don't have your new starting center out there. So, it's kind of a hodgepodge as it is already. You're not going into this thing with the most perfect picture for this roster. That, I guess, is just in the hands of, like, hey, does the quarterback really feel like he needs reps or not? And Tua, once we're going into year 5, it's time to be like, hey, if Tua feels like he needs it, I think we got to trust him on that. If he doesn't, then I think we're fine with it. And then I think it is an interesting thing, because we are also in this spot with the quarterback battle of knowing, I guess, and getting a hint of where it's at. Like, it felt like when you keep bringing in Skylar Thompson first, that feels to me like he's got the leg up on the battle. And then you have this, just quack explanation this week with, you heard it there in our open from Mike McDaniel, where he's just like, yeah, I'm making it hard on purpose. I'm like, what?
Huh?
Never heard of such nonsense in my life. What do you mean you're making it hard on purpose?
I don't understand anything he's saying anymore. And maybe it's like I just check out when McDaniel's talking. After like 45 seconds, I check out. And usually you have to wait till around like the third or fourth minute of a response to really get like to the meat and bones of what he's saying. So I realize that's an issue. Yeah, I realize that's an issue. I don't know what to make of this quarterback battle because, like, yes, you'd like to think the guy who's getting the first half reps or getting the first opportunity to go out there and suit up, who has been Skylar Thompson, would be ahead on the depth chart. But I don't know with Mike McDaniel because he zags when everybody else zigs. So is it Mike White? Tobin, from everything we've read from the guys who were out at practice religiously, right?
Mhm.
All the reporters, Burke, Goldmar, Adam Beasley, Barry Jack. It looked like Skylar has had a bit of an advantage just based on those reps. And then from what we've seen on the field, it looks like it's been Skylar, in my opinion, as well. I don't know if you feel differently. But I guess, experience and just like what have you done in the league also matters. And Mike White gets the nod there. So I don't know. I don't really have like a good feel for how this is developing right now, what Mike McDaniel's feeling. And I certainly don't get a good feel from listening to him talk about it either.
Yeah, it was the most bull bleep explanation I've ever heard in my life. Like I'm trying, like and that's I guess the beauty of Mike McDaniel is he's the ultimate players coach, and he wants to be everybody's friend. He doesn't want to throw anybody under the bus, and so he goes with this explanation of, "Oh, I'm on purpose making it hard for everybody." And yeah, look, for those guys, in fairness, last week, man, they had some things really not go their way. Like Skylar Thompson rolled out, extended a play, threw a ball down that Braxton Berrios maybe would have been tipped, but it was right there in his chest. And I think if you ask Braxton Berrios, 10 times out of 10, he feels like he should catch that ball for a touchdown. You look last week, Mike White, he has the team driving. His rookie left tackle gets shaken out of his shoes and he's sacked, fumble, boom, drive ends. So I get it. These guys, and then you have Chris Brooks has this incredible run for 60 yards. Then he's knocked out with a concussion. So I definitely think that last week it kind of got the hyenas off their back a little bit because it felt like everybody was talking about Ryan Tannehill and all this stuff. I felt like some of that died out this week because we realized, hey, that's stupid. That's not going to happen. Yeah, these guys have been practicing since May. One of them is going to get the job, and that's just what it's going to be. They have the experience in the offense. They know their stuff. And I also felt like last week, while neither was impressive, I also can recognize, hey, missed field goal, sack, fumble, dropped touchdown. Like they had a lot of things go against them too that killed drives. And I don't know what they're supposed to do about that other than Mike McDaniel telling you it was all staged. And that was to make it to make life miserable on them on purpose.
Even going back to that first preseason game, like I remember a couple balls and the conditions weren't great. The field conditions weren't great in that first preseason game against Atlanta. But man, I remember a couple balls, Tobin, that like Willie Snead had in his hand from Mike White and just
Twitter thumbs.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple instances.
Well,
of
listen,
that as well.
when Willie Snead stops being soft, call Tua, and maybe he can make the team.
Wow. All right. I guess you're not over that then.
Well, I mean, just you don't get to just say one conversation. Well, we talked it over and we're cool. Like, no, it's you had your tough Twitter thumbs, and then you called Tua soft, and where are you? We'll see you in the XFL.
Nobody's happier that he got cut, so you could keep bashing him because that guy made the roster. I mean, I don't think you'd be calling him old Twitter thumbs on the.
Well, he didn't though. I mean, if ifs and buts, like he didn't make the roster, and he didn't even make it to the cut down day. They're just like, what did he even get? He got put on fake IR. My apologies.
Yeah.
What does he
out here? Came out here for some cardio.
What does he have? Strained Twitter thumbs? What does he? What did he go on the IR for?
Yeah. Came out. Put on some pads. Put on his helmet. Got a little cardio in. And
good for him.
Yeah. Back on the grinder.
See ya.
Who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think it's going to be then? Skylar or Mike White?
I think it's Skylar, dude. I think it's Skylar. I think sometimes what's so obvious in front of our face is right there. And I feel like, look, he's gotten the start. He's gotten the first reps with the better players. The reporters have said he's been slightly better in camp. I think he's looked slightly better in these games. it's been, I mean, like, look, it's not a great battle. It's not like we're seeing a prime Skylar Thompson. I mean, this guy back-to-back years, arguably one of the greatest preseason quarterbacks we've ever seen. This has not been his finest preseason, but it also is like when you see a guy like Skylar Thompson and you remember how he made the team, it also takes a lot of the talk of, oh, poor backups in the fourth quarter. They don't have anything. Like, that dude didn't care. He was playing. He took a 4th round pick as his wide receiver. He slung that pigskin down the field, and he was so damn good the Dolphins couldn't expose him to waivers and made the roster outright. So we've seen these guys in adverse situations, the same players in this spot, do just fine. So I don't want to have this pity party for these guys because, they have bad conditions. Like, yeah, literally every quarterback that's going to go in there in the 3rd and 4th quarter is probably going to have bad conditions. Also, you guys are playing against guys who are going to be working at Kohl's next week. So, like, go out there and put up some numbers.
Yeah, which is what he did. You're right. Like, he did that consistently, and which is what I expected Mike White to do, man. Like, I see a lot of people saying, well, we know what Skylar is, but we also know that Mike White, he can win you games. We've seen him with the New York Jets win games. We've seen the team rally around him. And, like, all those points are fair, but also, I told you this week 1 or preseason week 1. If you're Mike White and you're coming in here and you're making whatever it is now, $3.5 million, right? Like, you got paid as a backup quarterback to come in and not have to force us to have these conversations. Like, you're supposed to be our safety blanket in case Tua has any issues, knock on wood. Like, go beat out Skylar Thompson, who's probably never going to be a starting quarterback in this league. Go beat him out. We shouldn't be having this conversation if you just went out and did your job. And that's what's been frustrating for me about this entire experience. It's that Mike White right now hasn't been able to do that. He hasn't been able to clear the gap between him and a Skylar Thompson. And to me, that's worrisome from the standpoint of he should be better than him. He's getting paid to be better than him. He's getting paid so that we shouldn't be having these conversations, and he just hasn't. So I think it's going to end up being Skylar, just based on that, based on the fact that he hasn't put himself in a position to comfortably win this backup quarterback spot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that for his standpoint, you had the rub last year because you were paid. Now it's not guaranteed. So it's like, hey, if he's gone, he's gone. Like, there's no real penalty for it. And, for Skylar Thompson, yeah, maybe he's got the leg up. Like, he's been in the offense for 3 years. Skylar Thompson's only been in it for 2. He's grown a little bit and has that experience, which in a lot of ways is a good thing. He was a drafted quarterback by the Miami Dolphins. This is not like, it's not like the Dolphins are getting some rando who's beating him out. Like, he's been one of their own now for a few years under Mike McDaniel. So you would hope that there's going to be some growth. And I think that's been looked upon as, hey, the Dolphins, this is a catastrophic situation. I got news for you guys. Like, look, if Uno goes down, it probably is going to be a catastrophic situation. Like, like, we're all going to be panicking no matter what they would have shown in these preseasons. These guys could have gone out there and they could have looked like Dan Marino combined with Greasy, combined with Tua. Like, they could have looked like a Voltron of the best Dolphins quarterbacks of all time in these preseason games. And if a regular season happens and Tua is going to miss a game, we're all going to be crapping ourselves that these guys are going to be rolled out there. Like, 100%. No one is going to feel good about what their preseason performances are. And I don't really know if anybody was going to feel differently, even if they would have gotten some veteran or journeyman backup. Like, I think this has been one of those things where obviously it's preseason. We are ready for it to all get going. This has kind of been the most compelling thing because even the battles of positions, I mean, like, they've kind of been whittled down. Like, look at it this week. You got the running back battle. All right, it's kind of down to Chris Brooks or Jeff Wilson.
Yep.
If I had to get, if Chris Brooks gets cleared, I'm kind of going to lean his way, Solana. I think that he's going to get the nod. Wide receivers a little bit squirrely because it's like, all right, did Malik Washington do enough to earn his spot on? Where are we with the health of the other guys? Who's going to be on the PUP list? Who's going to be on the IR? So maybe there's a little bit of finagling they'll be able to do there. But
and they got a lifeline with Craycraft's injury too. So
right
now you can just, I know we're going to talk about it, but you can you can kind of just have an extra guy because Craycraft is going to be on the pup to start the season.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to be left too bare there. I guess cornerback has kind of become like the most interesting one because you got Bonner, you got Storm Duck who's killing it. You got a lot of guys out here who are impressing, who are undrafted rookies. Are any of them in danger in getting scooped up? I guess the Dolphins will probably have more information on that. Are any of these guys in danger of getting scooped up if they are put out on waivers and you want to try and get them on the practice squad? That's the risk they're probably going to have to run. Will anybody make like it's not been a position they've been scared of going in that direction because they had Bonner last year, even though he did make practice squad on the outright. But Nick Needham and Cater Kohu, we've seen that same position bear some fruits for guys who weren't drafted. So, yeah, I don't know. This feels like a preseason finale that's lacking a little bit of drama because I don't know how many more things can actually be won this week. I don't know. I don't get this. I don't get this this sense like this is one of those where you have a ton of jobs and so many guys who you don't know just because you have the mix of injuries in there. Like, and that's been the thing that's kind of made this a little bit more murky.
Yeah. No, in a weird way, some of the injuries have benefited like these guys who would be on the cusp of either, getting waived and having to go to the practice squad or making the roster. I think really the only other battle is the one that you mentioned, Ethan Bonner. Is it going to be Storm Duck? I mean, even Cam Smith, man, like I know second round pick and all that, but this isn't a team that's going to be waiting around anymore. Like we're not doing the Noah Igbenogany thing where we're going to give you 3 years to figure it out. I think that's kind of compelling as well. The tight ends for a little bit was a bit compelling as well. Please don't make me listen to Mike McDaniel talk about the tight ends. I hope you played that last week, so we don't have to go down that road again. But you're right. The only position battle that feels like it's going to be won today is Skylar Thompson and Mike White. You're also 100% right. Like, I mean, we're just kind of looking for something to talk about at this stage of the preseason. This has given us the most fodder.
And worry. Like, I think that's the other thing is like with everything else, I think the questions are, hey, these guys are pretty good. It's going to be a bummer to lose one of them.
Yeah.
These guys, everybody's like, they all suck. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that's just the fans, I think, perspective on it. It's like, oh, I don't feel good about either one of these.
No,
so it's like we talk all this, we're talking about this battle going on, and like whoever comes out, I'm gonna have some guy like, Finn's balls on Twitter who's gonna be like, I was a Mike White guy the whole time. I told you not to cut him. And look what you did. You cut him. You cut the Broward boy.
Uh-huh.
And so that guy's going to keep his receipts. He's going to be like, now I'm just waiting. I'm going to wait on that one because Mike White's going to play for the Carolina Panthers and he'll go like throw for 400 because Bryce Young didn't work out. That's what Finn's balls is waiting on. It's coming, everybody.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, to your other point, like, yeah, losing, Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's a good player, but it kind of just feels like even though he's Mike McDaniel's guy, if he loses out on the gig, it's not because he sucked. It's kind of just like that's the game. Oh, we can save a little dough here. We got a guy who was undrafted last year in Chris Brooks. If like we can go in that direction. Ahmed, like we saw, he kind of ran out of his options, was banged up. It just was what it was. You kind of could see the writing on the wall. So we got a lot to dive into with this game. A lot of with this game, with the team, a lot of news this week, obviously, with the Dolphins. Dolphins probably had more news off the field this week than they did, quite frankly, on the field. But we'll cover it all. Game Day Uncensored. We roll on 560 WQAM. Tobin and Solana, Dan Day producing us all the way up until kickoff. We'll take a break. Back with more after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota text line.
the pregame show for real Miami football fans on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9, HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Gameday Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. We are getting ready for Dolphins and Bucks preseason game number 3, or as they're trying to get all fancy with it, called the preseason finale. Your Miami Dolphins getting set today at Raymond James Stadium before they get set for their opening week 1 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And tonight, these teams already did have a joint practice. They got into it. The thing that gave me the most goosey, Solana, apparently there was a good battle between Chop Robinson and Tristan Wirfs, which was pretty cool. Like to hear that, there was a back and forth already where the young bull is holding his own against a perennial Pro Bowler. That's pretty cool news.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that, he got the praise also from the perennial Pro Bowler. Bro, it's hard when you're just looking at like things to be excited about. I know everybody's bummed about Chubb and JP, even though JP is a chiseled god, and I have reason to believe that he's going to be back a lot sooner than any of us expected. Chop is definitely not just because he's the first round pick, Tobin. Like, I think he's given you reason to really be excited about him, not only being good long term, but also like being a solid contributor early on for this team.
Yeah, it's such an interesting position too, because it's like you don't have to hit every single time when you're learning this game as a rush end. Like, he can go out there and I don't know if he's going to be out there every single down. I guess early in his career, probably not. But I think that there are those times where, like, if he can learn some things throughout a game, if he just gets one of those, like, you can make an impact, right away. And he's got some great guys to learn from. The get off that he has, I mean, dude, he is
crazy,
explosive.
Yeah, he
is explosive and impressive. So to see him last week, him at the end of that drive, do what he did, man, that was goosies. That was pretty awesome to see Chop Robinson in action to get everybody fired up, because yeah, that was the one disappointment with the first game. It's like, oh man, we had this great performances by all the rookies, but you didn't get to see your first round pick. You got to see a little bit of him last week against Washington, and did not disappoint.
And him and Mo, right? Like, I feel like Kamara deserves some credit as well, because I think it was back-to-back plays, wasn't it? Where like they both got to the quarterback, and like they were just like a nuisance back there on that drive. So listen, man, it could be a lot worse, Tobin. Like, it could be a lot worse. The position the Dolphins were in, especially on the defense. New defensive coordinator. I know we're going to talk more about injuries, but like half your secondary has basically sat out every practice during training camp. And you're missing your 2 best edge rushers, arguably your 2 best players on defense outside of your elite cornerback. Like, it could be a much worse position the Dolphins are in. But as of right now, like tentatively, it seems like they hit in the draft, right? Guys who are going to be able to at least be present in these games. And they've given you reason to be hopeful for them, even as rookies.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing that everybody really likes about Chop is that, just seems like he is just like, shut up and just teach me football. Like, just wants to soak up all this stuff like a sponge. And obviously that's going to get a lot of respect from everybody, that he's just going in there and that he's going to learn all of this stuff and just feels like he's going to be on his way to a really, really good career. And you see that impact with Mo Kamara. Like, it's maybe a tougher climb, obviously, because you don't have that cushion of being a first round pick. You're a later round pick. You're not as maybe imposing, but man, even that sack that he had, dude, like dish ragged a giant ass lineman. I was like, holy crap, that guy's a dog, man. To see what he was able to do at his size, to go and get to the quarterback, which basically is what he did at college, like his entire career. he had to have the numbers flash maybe where Chop didn't, because, you're not coming from this blue blood college program in Penn State. But those two have a relationship going back. Here was Chop Robinson this week and said that he has been close with Mo Kamara for a long time.
Me and Mo have been training together since January for the combine. So we was together. Somehow we got real close during the combine and combine training. We was bumping heads, just having fun, making jokes, and just competing in everything we did in the combine training. And somehow we ended up on the same team. So it was basically just the same thing, from doing the 40, trying to compete with that, to competing out here. But we just make each other better.
Goosies. Best of friends.
Hey, give some credit to Patrick Paul. I feel like he deserves some credit here too, because you talk about just like going up against these big, meaty linemen. It's got to help to be going up against a monster like Patrick Paul in practice every single day.
Look, Patrick Paul is very intimidating looking. Like, I think Bo Cameron mentioned this and Leroy mentioned this. Like, it seemed like maybe there was a little bit of fatigue that caught up with him in that second half, because he played a lot. He played a lot in that game, and he mentioned this after the game where he turned some Falcons into cartoon characters, where like he was just bulldozing dudes. But he was like, yeah, that was my first football game in months. So these guys there is a different condition when these guys are out there, doing the whole thing of, they're playing practice sessions and, they're going at a certain speed, but, to get those game reps back up, and you're doing it against, different guys, you're getting different looks, you're taking on all these different type of players. You could forgive, even if he had, this one bad moment where, he gives up the sack to Mike White's blind side. And, I think that this guy, for the most part, you see the athleticism there. He was getting praised up and down this week by Austin Jackson, by his coaching staff. I don't know when that time is going to be that he's ready to go. And it's kind of weird, because it's like it kind of feels like it could happen at any point, because you never know with Teron Armstead, but you're almost hopeful that he does get this redshirt year to learn under the wing of a great veteran in Teron, because the potential seems like it could be through the roof for this kid.
We saw a bit of it with Austin Jackson, right? Like, remember, Austin Jackson was brought in, and we all kind of were under the assumption that he would be some sort of a project. I think it might have taken a little bit longer for it to come to fruition than we all would have wanted to. But now looking back, like, they nailed it with that pick. He got paid, and the Dolphins don't have any issues on that right tackle spot. Like, if that could be the process with Patrick Paul, then that's huge. Bro, it's really cool, by the way, that Muhammad Kamara and Chop Robinson were boys during all the NFL Combine stuff, and ended up getting signed to the same team. I didn't even realize that. I hadn't heard that clip yet. So that's actually really badass that they're on the same team together.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, I think it's cool too, because I'm sure it's awesome to have Jalen Phillips, who seems like and Bradley Chubb, who everybody says like their leadership is through the roof. And not that Jalen Phillips is an old guy, but these guys are already established. I mean, like Chop has talked about, like, whoa, like Jalen Phillips is a guy I look up to. So a guy in Mo Kamara, like, you're going through everything together. You're learning things. You're going through your struggles together. I think that's got to be a really vital thing to have, especially somebody in your own class who you have a great relationship with. I think that's got to be really beneficial for both of them.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think we're going to see those guys today, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think Chop said that he wants to play this week for sure, and I think there's no reason to keep him out. We found out that first time it was just minor injuries, minor dings. So I think they'll be good to go. I think one of the guys you mentioned him last segment that's unfortunate was Cam Smith. Man, I thought Cam Smith had a pretty good game last game, man.
He did.
He did. I thought he had that like little early struggle on the whiff, but then, man, he was staying with it. He had the big breakup, and I thought like was playing so well up until that hamstring exploded, which is really like that's a cruel thing. Like we've talked so much about like building up his confidence and getting him in the right spot, and it feels like anytime he gets a little bit of daylight, he gets bit by the injury bug. And if anybody can like afford it the least, it's this guy who wants to have this season that's gonna revitalize himself and put himself in the good graces of the franchise and the fan base and all that type of stuff, and really get his career off the ground. And it felt like, man, maybe last week was going to be a part of that. And now you're sitting here waiting again with a lot of young, hungry DBs who want to take your stuff.
It might have sounded a little cruel the way I put it last segment, which was this team doesn't have time to wait for you anymore. Like, enough with that. They did that already with a couple guys.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like, the time is now or it's never. Not to be too cliche, but that's how I feel about this roster, Tobin. The window is now. You just don't have time to wait for a guy like Cam Smith. With that being said, he can't catch a break, man. This guy, like, he had a defensive coordinator that just didn't like him, probably because he stole one of his tapioca snacks out of the refrigerator, and you just don't do that with the old curmudgeons. You don't steal their snacks, their afternoon snacks after their nap time. But now, like, comes into camp, injury bug, gets some reps in, looks good, plays well, injury bug again. He's one of these guys where I don't think he's going to be cut, Tobin. Like, I think he'll get the benefit of the doubt, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play today and he ends up not being on the roster. Like, I wouldn't be surprised about it.
Yeah, I just think that when you look at him, right, like, it's tough if you're Chris Greer, because he was your first pick last season. It's tough to look at that and be like, man, do I give up on it? Because it looks good. Like, here's the thing. Like, when we watched Noah Igbenogany, and who, by the way, I had no idea was a Commander until last week. No idea. And apparently a Commander who's trying to fight on the roster because he was playing late in that game. But anyway, it just felt like Noah was getting, toasted all the time and getting bullied all the time. And I think with Cam, like, oh, you saw the flashes there. I don't know what it was with Vic Fangio, but like, I saw this clip from Javon Holland on with Crowder on the pivot, and he was like, that dude didn't want to be there. Like, he didn't have time for anything last year. And so you have a guy in Anthony Smith, right? And Vic Fangio, he kind of made note of this last year. Like, he was a curmudgeon, but he was also like a little bit of a bitter old man because he's like, oh, I should still be a head coach. I got the job in the pandemic. And so it's like, all right, dude, we get it. You're like the old the high school football kid who comes back for homecoming weekend. Like, it's time to grow up, Peter Pan. And then you have like Anthony Weaver, who is now in this second opportunity to be a defensive coordinator where things didn't go right for him in Houston. And this guy's got like aspirations of being a head coach. Like, he's getting interviews for head coaching gigs. So that's something where, like, yeah, you're going to take like that extra care to be there with your players. And I feel like that attitude, there's been such a debate this week. We're going to spend more time on the Flores thing, but there's just such a debate about how do you handle today's player and what's the right way to go about it. And yeah, we're in a different time. And I do think that when you're a first round or a second round pick, we have less patience for you. We don't, want to see these guys go through their trials and tribulations, but the kid obviously has talent. You're not getting taken that high if you're a complete wreck bum. And so, yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. On the other side of it, though, has been, seems like there's a lot of cornerback talent on this team.
Yep.
Like Storm Duck, wow, good.
Well, that's the issue, though, Tobin, right? Like, if Cam Smith was just your best option, then I mean, it is what it is. But first of all, Ethan Bonner, who as of right now seems like he's on the outside looking in. Like, how many guys have praised him all throughout camp? Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, all the cornerbacks, they've talked about Ethan Bonner. And we kind of like, let's put this into perspective. We know what Ethan Bonner can be, just like your third or fourth best cornerback. I don't think anybody ever expected Ethan Bonner to turn into like Darrelle Revis out there, but we all kind of figured, hey, a full training camp underneath his belt, a full offseason with the Dolphins, like maybe he can surprise some people, turn some heads, and get himself a roster spot. But then you talk about Storm Duck. I have no doubt that Cam Smith has talent, but you don't want to be on the other end of it, on the other end of what you're saying, which is you have to wait 2-3 years for all of that to kind of materialize. And that's what happened with Noah Igbenogany. Like, they should have cut bait with him way before than they did, but they kept telling themselves, Chris Greer, I'm sure, was going through his mind saying, oh, he's a first round pick. Like, let's see, let's wait one more year. And I'm sorry, like, no matter how many times Noah Igbenogany changed his diet, the dude was a pescatarian, then he was a vegan his third year. Like, he just wasn't good at football. And there are guys who might have the talent, like a Cam Smith, but their bodies just can't withhold what it is that's being asked of them. I don't know if that's the case, by the way. I'm kind of just, I guess I'm being a little unfair based on what's happened this camp and based on what happened last year. But if Storm Duck can help you win games right now and Cam Smith can't, then I don't care where you drafted him. Like, go with the guy who can help you win games now.
Here is the aforementioned Storm Duck. He has been getting a ton of pass breakups in the preseason so far. This is from Doug Farrer, who says Dolphins rookie cornerback Storm Duck has allowed 2 catches on 11 targets this preseason. Had 2 impressive pass deflections in tight coverage last week. Here was Storm Duck on his performance so far with the pass breakups in preseason.
I just see it as another game of football. Just being able to go out there and, competing against guys who are also, trying to compete against you. Is like, man on man. And obviously, in anything in life, you don't want to lose at. So, I take it like that and play at a time and just having fun with it.
Yeah, he's been good. Plus, he has an awesome name. And
It's the name.
I'm not going to lie. Like, hey, listen, it's going to be like all respect. I know people are talking about like Isaiah Johnson too, because it's like, 6'3". You think back to the days of Sean Smith, like a giant corner who's impressing. Like, that's cool, but his name's not Storm Duck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
It reminds me of like before we knew Andrew Van Ginkel was really good, and before we knew he was just going to be all over the field, loved him because of his name. Like I was giving him the nod. I know you were too. Just based on that hair, man. Just unbelievable flow. I feel like we're in another situation here where Storm Duck, not only does he have a badass name and we like it, I think he's going to live up to that badass name.
Even if Storm Duck went out there today and he got roasty toasty by Mike Evans, I still think I would love him because his name is Storm Duck. Like, I don't care. Here is more of Storm Duck, who gives you insight into his soul, which is he loves to read and appreciate the little things.
I take a lot of time just reading books. I read a lot, and it like you learn to appreciate what's around you. Just as you could see like a squirrel going up the tree, you walk right by it, not even see it. Just like little things around you keeps you in the moment. So that's what I really learned, and it's hard to put into words. Not too. I mean, as human nature, it's kind of hard not to think ahead for sure, but that's definitely helped me, keep me, where my feet are, not putting pressure on myself, just having fun with everything.
Wow.
McDaniel loves that.
Oh yeah. He's like a little Mike McDaniel. Like the two of them just watching woodland creatures.
He's like, Storm, you saw that squirrel? Okay. Writes down a little note in his pad.
I feel like, I could picture both Storm Duck and Mike McDaniel sitting out on the little balcony, and they're taking bets on like which squirrel gets more acorns. And they're just like, there we go. And that's how life is like.
Do you believe him, or do you think he just watched The Martian recently? Have you ever seen The Martian at the very end?
Is that with Matt Damon?
With Matt Damon, just at the
never seen that movie.
At the very end of the movie. I don't want to spoil it for you, but at the
I'm
very
never
end
going to watch it. Just a spoiler alert for all those who really have been wanting to see Matt Damon's 2021 hit The Martian. Spoiler alert.
You sound like you're taking a little shot there, Tobin.
I'm not taking a shot. I'm just letting you know.
Phenomenal movie.
I don't personally care. You can spoil it for me. I'm just putting a spoiler alert out for our audience.
Okay.
If anybody does want to see The Martian, now is your time to tune away. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert. He spent a lot of time on Mars, but he finally gets back to Earth, and the final scene is him just sitting in a park and taking in just like nature and taking in things that we normally wouldn't take. And there's like this little tiny piece of grass on the ground, and he like puts his fingers through it, and he like picks it up and he smells it. And it's just like one of these like grounding moments. And I feel like Storm Duck, A, knows Mike McDaniel loves that bleep and he's pandering to him. And 2, just saw The Martian recently, thinks it was deep, and that's what he told us.
I don't think Storm Duck saw The Martian. I think what probably happened was he was talking to reporters and a squirrel, because they talk outside,
right,
in training camp, and I think he probably literally saw a squirrel, like, and he got distracted, and it was just like, and a squirrel, and that's just him appreciating the little things in life. How dare you? We'll take a break. Game Day Uncensored comes back right after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore Saga.
Your favorite shows, the games of your favorite Miami teams, and more can be heard on the free Odyssey app. Don't miss out. Download it today and make WQAM your favorite station.
Game Day Uncensored continues on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back. It is Game Day Uncensored here. Tobin here with you alongside Solana as we take you up until 7:30. That is kickoff from Raymond James Stadium. The Miami Dolphins getting ready for their preseason finale against the Bucs, who they had a joint practice with this week. Mike McDaniel with some nice words for Baker Mayfield. We'll get those for you a little bit later on in the program. But let's get to some keys to the game brought to us by Ed Morse. Ed Morse Sawgrass Buick GMC. No matter where your lease vehicle, bring it to Ed Morse Sawgrass Buick GMC, your lease return headquarters. It's all part of being backed by Morse. Click EdMorseSawgrassBuickGMC.com, a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins. Today is, going to be a key for the Dolphins because we will hopefully have an answer, or we will have an answer one way or the other next week to who is going to win this QB2 battle. Mike McDaniel had a theory that he's putting out there for the media, and it is that he is putting his backup quarterbacks, in bad positions on purpose. Here was the Dolphins head coach on what he's doing with his backup QBs.
Quite honestly, what the approach that I've kind of taken is to create super difficult situations for both of them. And as that manifests, that's whether the play calling choice, the situations that I'm asking, maybe them to do certain things specifically to put them in difficult situations, because what are we really trying to evaluate? We're trying to evaluate who's best to serve handling a difficult situation. Inherent in being a backup quarterback is that you are in a difficult situation, whether that's in game or starting a game, and so we thought it was most appropriate to do that. And how that's presented itself in practice is I've gotten a ton of information, and there's so many different nuances that I'm trying to focus on a given day, and then carrying that message to the game. And it's much broader than do we go down as an offense and score. It's quite literally handling difficult situations and then saying, hey, you have to go do this. I'm going to call this play probably against a non-premier coverage. And let's see what you do. You're going to play a quarter with a receiver playing running back. How do you respond?
Yeah, and that wasn't even the end of it, but it's because he is something. I mean, and I feel like that is, Solana, I feel like that's directed more towards Mike White than it is Skylar Thompson, because, Skylar Thompson, he got to start the game. I'm sure he knew he was starting the game the first week. And then you get a little bit of run with some better players, although most of the starters were out after the 11 snaps. Mike White's been in there with the hodgepodge of guys. And yes, he was the one who, if you guys missed it, and I don't blame you for tuning out last week, what happened was Chris Brooks, incredible run in the second half, goes for 60 yards. Then he gets knocked out of the game. And they have to go with Jaquan Burton, hoot,
yeah,
FAU, and had to play him at running back And you can see them scrambling, and they're like, all right, man, here you go. And they gave him like a couple pitches. I don't believe he ended up with positive yardage in that game, maybe a yard. I feel like he got tackled for loss and maybe got to the goal line, but they very quickly realized, all right, no run game the rest of the time, which, listen, maybe they should have had more, they should think of these situations, but you're telling me, yes, they had to deal with another situation. There's no way Mike McDaniel could have known that the running back was going to get knocked out with a concussion, unless you're calling Chris Brooks a phony.
Which he's not, by the way. I think he was knocked out, and then he missed some time anyways in concussion protocol. I do like, though, that Mike McDaniel goes, it's not as simple as just leading the team down and scoring points. And Tobin, look, I'll preface everything I'm about to say with, I realize that it's more intricate than that, because he's right. Like, how can Mike White or Skyler handle those types of situations? How can they relay the plays being called to their team properly? Like, I realize the quarterback position is the hardest position to play in sports, but sometimes, especially when deciding backup quarterback, it is as simple as, hey, who can lead your team down and score points better? Like, it is that simple. And hey, eye test right now, it hasn't been Mike White. It just hasn't been. It's been Skylar Thompson. So he just talks too much, man. He talks too much. I'm sorry. He talks too much.
He talks too much.
He talks too much.
You've tapped out on him?
Yeah. Because that's the 8th time I've heard that quote this week.
It was a lot because it was a ridiculous. I mean, look, I will be with you. It's a ridiculous quote.
Yeah.
And it's why his players love him, because even Mike White was kind of giving voice to this. And I was like, Mike was like, well, I'm just trying to keep everybody calm. And I'm like, calm? Throw bombs, dude. What are you doing? Keep them calm. I was like, because he was saying something about like, well, the conditions weren't great. I know who I'm out here with. I'm like, dude, all respect. You're not like Joe Flacco. All right. You're not some like grizzled, credentialed veteran who's like been to the top of the sport. Like you're Mike White. You're a career backup. It's a nice story that you're here. But this guy's acting like, I'm just trying to show my veteran savvy, and I got to keep everybody on the same page. Malik Washington's never been around this, so I got to keep everybody going. And I'm just like, okay, great. I'm glad you kept everybody calm under the pressure of preseason game, number 1 and 2. But I don't think it's an explanation. I don't think it's an explanation as for where they're at with this backup quarterback spot. Like Mike McDaniel just came into camp and he goes, guys, hear me out. I think our backup quarterbacks are too comfortable and I want to make things awful for them. I want to torture them. And that's what we're going to do here this preseason. And like Darrell Bevel is just supposed to be like, so you want to make their life a living hell? He goes, exactly. That's what we're going to do. In fact, get Chris Brooks in here. Chris, here's what you're going to do. You're going to look a little woozy after a big run. And then all of a sudden, we're going to send in the FAU kid, and he's going to play tailback. And we'll see how Mike White handles it. And that's going to be how I determine who my backup quarterback is. It's like,
Coach, are you talking about the guy who's never played running back before? Yep. That's
that kid.
That's the plan right there. Yeah, that's the plan. Hey, Mike White, maybe the worst thing that ever happened to you was that the entire Jets team wore T-shirts in support of you. Congratulations. Everybody liked you more than the guy who likes to have sex with moms and literally might be the worst draft bust in the history of the NFL. But you can't beat out Skylar Thompson. So settle down with your veteran savviness. Okay?
We also forget about that Mike White also, don't forget, with Zach Wilson not only sucking, he also threw all of his teammates under the bus.
Right.
And so like he had that going with him in pairing with Mike White, who, look, he came in sometimes last year at some garbage time and threw some bomb skis. I think that's kind of what we want. Like, hey, go take some risks. Let's see it. I will say, Eric Ezukama, still out here making these dudes look fly. I think if anything, maybe he should be like a wildcat quarterback or something, because this guy's been the real stuff. Every time there's a preseason game, don't tell him about difficult positions. You give him a bum out there. If he just chucks the ball out, Eric Ezukama is going to go make that play.
Hey, Tobin, you bring up the Wildcat. And since it's preseason, indulge me in some nonsense here for just a second, okay? Just a second. Bring back the Wildcat. Bring it back. Red zone situations, like goal line situations. Give me the Wildcat.
But with who? Who do you want back there?
I don't know. That's not for me. That's not for me to decide. I just, as you would say, silly sauce. Like I want as much trickery as possible. Listen, Mike McDaniel, he doesn't shy away from the nonsense. He doesn't shy away from the trickery. He doesn't shy away from getting creative. I was reminiscing about the 2008 Wildcat team, Ronnie Brown, 5 touchdowns in Foxborough, whatever it was, and I was just thinking to myself, you know what would make this team more fun? Give me the Wildcat. It's better than the red zone fade to the shortest guy in the NFL, which is what they tried to do every time in the red zone last year. And I realize we have Jonnu Smith now, and I realize, there's probably better options than what I'm suggesting, but I want a little Wildcat this year with the Miami Dolphins.
Objectively, the best part about Wildcat was when the Dolphins made the Wildcat a thing, and you saw that they were lining up in the Wildcat, that we all just as a fan base got to shout at our televisions, Wildcat! Wildcat! And we all knew it was coming. It was such a thrill.
Yeah.
If you guys want to know why the Dolphin fan right now loves this team so much, by the way, even though maybe it's not living up to expectations, it's because that's the most exciting offense that they've had since Ricky Williams was the Wildcat.
That's
and
the
now,
funniest part about it. Yeah.
And now you get bombs to Tyreek Hill. That's why that's why you're just like, please make this work, because this is the most fun any Dolphin has had since Marino.
What does it say about the state of that team and the teams that followed until this era that the most exciting part of your offense was finding Anthony Fasano for 15-yard gains with your running back throwing it to him?
Always rumbling, a rumbling Fasano. All right, we'll take a break. Back with more after this on Game Day Uncensored.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota text line at
QAM. Just download the free Odyssey app to listen to all of our shows live or on demand. Plus, there's the cool rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime. Get it now and make WQAM your favorite station.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here. It is Tobin and Solana alongside Dan Day, who you'll be able to hear full post-game coverage tonight after Dolphins, Bucks preseason finale, and then we can finally move on to some real football. Finally. No more hard knocks to buoy us. No more nonsense. We could just get to real football in a big ass season for your Miami Dolphins. Cannot wait. But we have some fun along the way. And Solana, this week, who would have known that before a joint practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, that Mike McDaniel would once again be storming the internet with his new look. And for our YouTube and Twitch audience, which you guys can watch the show on YouTube and Twitch, we will throw this up right here. But it is Mike McDaniel gets to the podium and is got these giant ass sunglasses on, beard, a little disheveled, looks like he is, he's on the road. Obviously this is in Tampa, so, the missus doesn't give him the fit check in the morning. And this whole thing takes the internet by storm. Everybody has looked at Mike McDaniel, and he has just gone full Miami. As you can see, Solana, you look like you got your McDaniels on right now.
Yeah, so apparently you can get the Papi Chulo Mike shades at your local gas station in Kendall for $9.99, which is what I did. I got the exact same shades on as it's what I'm calling him now too, Papi Chulo Mike, because that's what he looks like to me. He looks like the guy. It looks like the guy you go to Mango's in South Beach on Ocean Drive. What do you need? I got what you need a drink? I got you. You need a little something else? I got you. He's the plug.
He looks incredible. And this is, of course, what swept the internet was just meme after meme. I think this is the one that probably took off the most, which was from Mike Bouvet, who said, it took only 2 years in Miami for Mike McDaniel to go from Best Buy assistant manager to South Beach cocaine kingpin, which, yeah, I mean, it looks like I could see him in some kind of Billy Corben sequel spinoff where, like, he's the guy. He's been the mastermind the entire time. He goes from good boy in an office job to, to just completely taking over the Miami drug ring because he just knows motion and he knows how to set things in order and in process.
Yeah. No, I mean, he looks like my Adderall plug while I was at FIU. I mean, like, he looks like the most Miami character. He is actually, I don't know if you knew this, Tobin. He is the new main character of Grand Theft Auto, which is coming out and based in Miami. I wasn't aware if you knew that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if they put some version of this in Grand Theft because it's not coming out for like another 2 years, right? They like teased everybody for 3 years.
Right.
But I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing because he's a man with swag. He cares about what he wears.
He does.
He's suited and booted. He cares about the shoes that are right. He's trying to impress, but he didn't even run a comb through the hair that day. He's just like, we got to roll out of bed. We throw on the big glasses because it's bright out. And this is my look. I'm gonna own this. Glasses that are way bigger than my face.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, there's no need to brush his hair because he stands in 150-degree heat every day in a full, like, tracksuit every day, which is still bizarre to me. Like, he's sticking with his look. So, I mean, he's going to be sweaty. The hair's going to get messy anyways. I respect it. Like, he's going for the disheveled, just like, grumpy young coach, but he's not grumpy, and he's the smartest guy in the room. So it doesn't like exactly fit, but I love it. I like the direction that he's going in.
Gameday, it's the watch too, yeah. Like when you see this and you see the Mike McDaniel look, do you think it's like, is it the watch that caps it off, or is it the glasses for you?
Yeah, the watch really ties it all together. The glasses gets the focus, but the watch is the little accentuation, and the big wedding ring too. He's got gold. He's not gold and silver. He knows. He knows. He's got it. He's got the jewelry matching up with this whole thing. See, like, I think if he's a man of humor, I think tonight, like, I think John Embry's actually coaching the second half of the game for the Dolphins today. This is where I see Mike McDaniel like just busting out accessories in the second half tonight to just be like, this is for the bit. This is just because we need to have some yucks here in preseason game number 3.
He's got to lean into it, right? Like if he can just start calling out some plays in Spanish, like just like like croqueta XY double cross Z tequeño, like just really lean into like all the Miami stuff. He knows what he's doing though, right, Tobin?
Oh yeah. Well, right? If he does it, I think this is one of the things. If he walked into it by accident, now it's to make everybody laugh, because there's no way that this doesn't become a T-shirt that like everybody's wearing to the plane for the first road game. That's what needs to happen. Like everybody, whomever out there among us is going to make the next Mike McDaniel T-shirt. Like remember the one that was like in Vice colors that they made that was for Miami Mike. Well, the next one needs to be like this, but with this particular look. Like this needs to be the shot for him. That needs to be the next way to go.
Yeah, I'm really trying to coin the Papi Chulo Mike. I don't know if it's going to take off, but I love it. Like, because that's what I think of when I look at him right there. Papi Chulo Mike.
The only thing he needs now is like a leopard print bathrobe that he can walk around his pool with. He goes, time to skim the pool again. He's just walking around. He's got some Versace like slides on. He's like, yeah, this is the life. King of the Dolphins.
It's exactly what he needs. He needs like the matching Gucci jumpsuit and then the Versace slides. He's already got the watch. He's already got the big glasses, which are probably like actually $15,000 glasses. And then maybe like one nice Jesus piece or something. And I mean, he's not only ready to coach the Miami Dolphins to their next Super Bowl, but he's also ready to pop bottles at Live. And then he'll be the guy at 11 at 5 a.m. Again, with whatever you need. You need a playbook. You need a red zone touchdown play. He's got you. He also got a little something else in his pockets too.
Whatever you guys need, I got you on the hookup. The other piece of nonsense that has gone down at Dolphins practice this week has been the beef continues between Noah Lyles and Tyreek Hill. Now Noah Lyles has had his say. He wants a milli to do the race on a track, 100 meters, not putting up his gold medal like a coward. Although I do feel like if he's putting up his gold medal, Tyreek Hill's got to put up the Super Bowl ring.
Right.
That's got to be what's fair is fair. But anyway, here was Mike McDaniel on the potential showdown between the two speedsters.
Take on this Noah Lyles, Tyreek Hill potential race. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. You just said that you off of social media, but apparently Reek wants to race the 100-meter champion. Your thoughts? Do you think he'll win? What have you heard anything about this?
I mean, so yeah, I would love to weigh in. Can we get one of our division opponents to sign Noah Lyles so I could actually care about the race? Because if it's on a football field, I know those circumstances. I think Tyreek's one of one, and I don't put anything past him. I know Noah Lyles is really fast, so I appreciate the competitors being competitive, and let's get him in a division opponent so we can the result of that race can actually matter.
Man, we finally reached something that he doesn't care about. He's too much nonsense. We've reached too much nonsense for Mike McDaniel now.
You know why though, right? Because he knows his boy Tyreek will get smoked.
Well, yeah.
He knows.
I mean, well, that's the thing is, especially if it's on a track, like no shot. If it's on grass and you make it shorter, maybe. Probably not. Probably
maybe,
not.
Like the 40 on grass. I'm not saying I'm taking Tyreek, but okay, I'm willing to field some offers. 100-meter on track. Yeah, sorry, Reek. I love you, Cheetah. I really do, but you don't stand a chance, brother.
I would go into this and I would still think like, okay, Cheetah's going to lose. I really don't care about him racing Noah Lyles. It's fun fodder. Obviously, Tyreek is a troll and he loves to get just a reaction on the internet. I'm still waiting on the Dolphins race. Like, this has been nonsense, dude. We have been here now with 3 years. We have no idea who wins a race between Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert. Now Devon Achane has entered the mix. We have a white cornerback who everybody claims can be in the mix too. The reason that this race hasn't happened yet is what? There's no good reason it hasn't happened. Why haven't we had this race yet? I want to know who wins the Dolphins race. I'm sick of waiting. It's ridiculous. I know forget about racing Olympians.
I know why it hasn't happened. Because they don't want to risk getting beat by the white cornerback. That's all it is. Well, they don't want to risk it. I think they're all confident they can beat Ethan Bonner, but based on what we've heard, he can at least keep up with them. They don't want to risk on the off chance Ethan Bonner that day laces up the PF Flyers. They don't want to risk losing that race to Ethan Bonner. They don't want to risk it.
If you just what if you get a wrong spot on the field? What if you get a wet spot on the field? You get a soggy part of grass, and Ethan Bonner is the one who reigns supreme. Intangibles. All right, we'll take a break. Obviously, the story that took the Dolphins by storm this week was the rehashing of Tua Tagovailoa's disdain for Brian Flores, which had Flores having to answer questions at Vikings camp this week. We will get into that coming up. Game Day Uncensored, back after this.
There are so many great reasons to buy your next new truck or SUV.
WQAM Miami, WPOW HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey Sports Station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Well, we're down to the last Dolphins preseason game of the year. The Finns are in Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs. Most of the regulars won't play, but there will be guys fighting for jobs. Notably, for Tua's backup, Mike McDaniel is putting the pressure on the contenders.
The approach that I've kind of taken is to create super difficult situations for both of them. And as that manifests, that's whether the play calling choice, the situations that I'm asking, maybe them to do certain things specifically to put them in difficult situations.
One of those vying for the job is Mike White, who responded to McDaniel's comments this way.
Once you let your mind start wandering to that, you're kind of screwed. So I've taken the approach of just whatever my plays are that day, play them out, lead your group, no matter who it is. It could be Tyreek and Jalen. It could be the rookies. It could be anybody.
The final tune-up for Week 1. Dolphins, Bucs up the highway. Time now to get into it with Tobin and Solana on Gameday Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back in, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Take you guys up until the 7:30 kick from Raymond James Stadium. It is Dolphins and Buccaneers to wrap up the fake season. This might be the last one that we only have 3 games, because who knows? We could get an 18-game schedule with 2 preseasons. And, yeah, it's probably selfish against the human body of actual football to do that. Hopefully they work in a way where they get multiple bye weeks. But God, I'm going to be happy that this preseason gets cut down.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. 3's too many. Let's be honest. 3's too many, Tobin.
4 was too many. We used to do 4, and it wasn't that long ago, Solana.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be quite honest, 2 is too many, and 1 might be too many. We don't need these preseason games.
It's become one of these things where nobody wants to look a fool, and quite frankly, it doesn't feel like this is that many jobs that are up for it. They're getting through a system. I know this has been a bit of a peculiar camp because it feels like there's been more minor injuries that they've been super careful with. The Dolphins have a lot of veterans over 30. So it's been a little bit of a snoozer, outside of these games. I think when we first got back, we were super jolted up for football to be back. And we had some camp darlings. We had Quentin Bell week. We had Malik Washington week. And, now it's all right. Can we just get this damn thing wrapped up so we can get to real football?
The only real story out of camp has been outside of Mike McDaniel looking like a new person, and Tyreek Hill racing Noah Lyles, and now Tua and Flo. The only real story out of camp ended on day 3 of camp. When was Tua going to get paid?
Yeah, I would say I think you're right. I would say there's been 3. I would give 3 real stories of camp. Tua getting paid was a huge one. Jalen Phillips being this far ahead of schedule and actually getting out on the field, I think was a big, big story.
Yeah.
And then still waiting on Odell Beckham. Those to me are the real meat and potatoes. What have been the biggest headline? If you told me what are the biggest headlines at a camp, you are spot on 100%. The Tua contract thing, Tua getting his money, those would be the other 2. That, and then everything else is kind of cute. it's all like little cute subplots. Who knows what they'll turn into, but like things that are going to have real noticeable impact on this season is Jalen Phillips and Odell Beckham Jr. We still don't know. We still don't really know.
Yeah. Well, Tobin, what about injury? This is something that I asked Crowder earlier in the week because they were kind of talking about, hey, what should we be looking for in the final preseason game? What's been like the main takeaways through the first two and through training camp up until whenever we had this conversation, Tuesday or maybe it was Wednesday. And I told them, hey, the way last year ended, I am a bit concerned with injuries right now. I totally realize that, for example, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle this week could have practiced. Them not playing in preseason shouldn't be alarming. Like, whatever, right? Like, why risk it? I also know somebody like Jordan Poyer. He has a cast on his hand, injured his thumb early in training camp. Dude's a gamer. He's fine. Like, if they were playing right now, he'd be out there with a cast, hitting people over the head with it. I think Javon Holland is kind of in that same situation where if there were meaningful games right now, he'd be playing.
Right.
Kendall Fuller.
He's also and the other thing with Javon is the contract's hanging over it too, right? Like,
correct.
So you're going to be
correct.
extra cautious.
Correct. Yeah. So I realize like there's caveats to this like storyline or what I'm presenting to you, but with the way last year ended and injuries kind of derailing everything, are you not at the tiniest bit concerned maybe that this is not the best way to start the season? New defensive coordinator. Your entire secondary has kind of been like missing camp a little bit. Your two best edge rushers have been injured already. We know that. Like, injuries continue to kind of be this like dark cloud over the team right now. And it's not my favorite way to start a new season. Again, just knowing how last year ended.
I was certainly concerned with the Waddle thing, but seeming like he, after hearing him talk, and sometimes I feel like, the no news is good news thing, or we always go no news is bad news when it comes to the sports injuries, because it just feels like it's secrecy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like we'd be better, and that's their policy. They don't like, injured players talking. Dolphins aren't unique in that regard, but I almost feel like, hey, if Odell Beckham could actually talk about where he's at with these things right now and give some transparency to it, wouldn't people feel better about it? Would that do better than it would harm? Because I felt like when I heard Jalen Waddle speak, I'm like, oh, okay, because I was a little, I was like, well, he was banged up last camp. He's now banged up again this camp. Just seems like it was no big deal. They're being cautious. But, so that was the big one for me outside of the OBJ one, because the OBJ one, it's kind of gone to like, well, I have nothing, so I'm just expecting the worst now. I'm expecting Odell Beckham to not be here for 6 weeks.
What about Aaron Brewer? Like, that's another guy that, again, could he be playing right now? Maybe, probably. But I mean, this is a guy that's coming in and he's supposed to replace your center from last year, Connor Williams, who was pretty good. But we did see snap issues kind of be a pain in the ass early on in the season last year. Look no further than Kansas City versus Miami the first time they played early on in the season in Germany. I don't know, man. Like, I just don't like the vibes. And again, this could just be me being a skeptic, and that's fair. Like, call me out on it if you want, but I don't like the vibes throughout all of training camp of the injury bug just being as prevalent as it has been going into this season, because they need guys healthy, man. And I don't like starting this way.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with you being apprehensive about it because you're scarred from last year. And it's tough for me to dismiss it just because I don't know. We don't have an injury report.
Yeah.
They kind of get to be like hockey with this for training camp, where it's like, it's an upper body thing, or they don't have to tell you really anything. Mike McDaniel can just say week to week. He can say day to day. He can say no timeline. He can be very vague about it, which he typically is anyway. And that's without an injury report. So I would put it like, if you wanted me to like get a level of concern from right now, I'm at like a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm not, it's the Odell thing, and it's hoping that Jalen Phillips can get back faster than expected. But everybody else, yeah, it's bummer not to have River Craycraft, but no one's going to be hearing the Dolphins you lost week 2 because no River Craycraft. No one's going to be wanting to hear that about Cam Smith. Like, there's not a catastrophic one yet. There's not one that's like, oh no. I don't think that's happened to them yet.
Like Jalen Ramsey last year.
Right. Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Good
I
point.
think all in all, it's been okay. But we hope that they get out of this one clean and we can start prepping for the real thing. All right, we'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. When we come back, we'll get into the story of the week, which was Tua v. Brian Flores. It's back. It's a storyline we thought was dead, and now it's back. Back after this.
WQAM broadcasting live from the Ed Moore Sawgrass
AM, your favorite station? Do it. Listen to us live or on demand and use the rewind feature to go back and listen to any part of any shows you might have missed.
Game Day Uncensored continues on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored here. 560 WQAM. Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana. Dan Day producing our show here today as the Miami Dolphins are getting ready for preseason game number 3 against the Bucs on the road today. Dolphins just tweeting out the team arrivals at Raymond James Stadium as we get ready for this final preseason game. But Solana, let's get into it for the big story of the week, which of course was an old story that was brought to light because Tua did an interview with the Dan Le Batard show, and they released it this Monday, where it was capped off by Tua comparing Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel as head coaches. And, you know, the big standout of it was Tua using the word terrible to describe Brian Flores as a person and his style, abrasive, saying, we don't want you here, you know, you're no good. And in comparison to obviously what has been a very positive relationship with Mike McDaniel. So I guess I'll start here with you. Your reaction to coming out with the comments, not things that I guess we didn't know, but to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. What was your reaction here in the interview?
Yeah, I think the first thing I thought was I like that Tua, A, got paid, and now B, has like this swagger to him, right? Where before he was always a bit reserved, whether speaking to the media, whether talking about Brian Flores, really just in every way, like coach speak is what I always expected to hear from Tua on every topic and any topic. Very private guy, and it's just the way that he's always been. I like this Tua. I want to see this from my quarterback. You know, I have my reservations about Tua, but I like this from him, where he's like, hey, man, I'm the franchise guy. That dude was wrong. He was wrong, and the way he treated me was wrong. So I think that was my initial reaction. Like, it was cool to see Tua kind of, I'll use the word like blossoming into a more, I guess, like confident person in front of a microphone or in front of a camera.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been noticeable with him. I mean, I think you saw, you know, some elements of him coming out of the show, but even his teammates have said him in the huddle this year, him at practice, calling guys out. I mean, he's been much more vocal. That was used a lot this week, was that he's just a much more vocal guy. Jalen Waddle, who's been with him since Alabama, has said that he's a much more vocal guy. It's interesting. Obviously, you know, Dan is one of the best in the game when it comes to interviews and can get guys to reveal things that maybe they wouldn't to others. I don't think that anybody has really hit him with the Flores thing directly. We've kind of known, right? Like, it's been danced around because everybody had talked about, you know, we'd heard the stories from broadcasters who had said, well, Tua had said the story about, oh, do I suck? You know, looking at himself in the mirror and questioning that type of stuff. And so kind of we all knew the parties in the story, but, you know, to finally, I guess, hear it from the man himself was what I guess the jarring part of it was. And then the fact that Flores had to address it the next day was certainly something that made for really something that kind of took over the football landscape this week. And especially with there not being any games, this really was the story of the week.
Were you surprised at how much attention it got outside of Miami?
No,
really?
I'm not. I wasn't surprised for a couple of reasons. One, the Dolphins and Tua are a national topic. Like, they're just one of those things that you throw him up and he's going to make a Sports Center. He's going to make a First Take. He's going to make a McAfee show. He's going to make any of those talking heads, a Florio, like he's a guy that people have a reaction to. I don't really know what the secret sauce of that is and why, but he just does. So you have that on top of, scandal-ish type stuff. I mean, like Stephen A. Smith accused Dan Le Batard of being in cahoots with the NFL this week, that this is like some kind of thing to write off Brian Flores even more with his lawsuit with the NFL. Right. And look, to a part of it, like I don't feel bad for Brian Flores at this point, because like you did treat Tua poorly and you probably were rats off a ship on him too much. But I think the thing that gets missed with all this is the organization was too
correct.
And I think that's the thing that's I feel a little bit bad as like he's getting thrown at as this bad guy. But, the owner was snooping around the Deshaun Watson thing. He got busted for tampering multiple years after Tom Brady. And the reason that's the thing with Tua, like that was like the time where I was going to camp like every single week, in the facility every single week. And man, I felt I hadn't felt that bad for a professional athlete ever, because he just kept having to get to that podium every single week, Solana, and ask questions about trade rumors and fodder. And does the team believe in you? And this kid is, I get you guys. He's a millionaire. He's a first-round pick, comes with the territory. But he was also a young man. And it's like, hey, this team very clearly doesn't want you. What's your reaction to it? Because, hey, the coach, he's literally just saying Tua's our quarterback. Chris Greer and Stephen Ross are nowhere to be found. So you're the guy who has to talk for all this. And that, in a lot of ways, is kind of what's made Tua, in my eyes, very, very easy to root for, because I thought he handled all of that stuff with incredible grace. No, it's not just winning football games. I'm just talking about from a human perspective, and seeing that week in and week out. I was like, man, I feel bad for him.
Yeah, and it was easy to kind of pick up on the cues of what Flo was saying during that stretch. Like, this is during the season, by the way, if people don't remember. This is after games, bombshell reports about how the Dolphins are looking to trade for Deshaun Watson before that entire story kind of took a turn for, a very weird turn. And like after games, Tua's being asked about it. After games, Flores is being asked about it. And yeah, then we find out the owner's on a yacht trying to get Tom Brady. But the reality, Tobin, when it comes to the organizational standpoint of not having been bought in on Tua, and the organization perhaps trying to, or not perhaps, like on record trying to go find somebody else to replace him, I don't blame them for that. I don't blame, at the time, Brian Flores wanting Deshaun Watson at the time. Again, now we can look at it and say, thank God that didn't happen. I think we would all agree with that. Like, Tua hadn't proven himself to be a franchise caliber quarterback yet. And we can discuss whether or not that was because of the scheme that was being run, that was because of the lack of faith that the coaching staff had, or Brian Flores had in Tua Tagovailoa. Like, certainly part of that was because Flores wasn't putting him in the right decision. I'm aware of that. I think we all are. Mm-hmm. But the reality is he hadn't proven that he was a franchise caliber quarterback yet, no matter the situation. So I don't get upset at Brian Flores wanting Deshaun Watson. I don't get upset at Stephen Ross being on a yacht trying to get Tom Brady. Like, it worked out pretty well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, didn't it? So those things don't matter, don't bother me. What does bother me is finding out now more context to it, more details, what was happening behind the scenes with Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa. Clearly, Brian Flores, you can talk all you want about how great his defenses were. You can talk, whether or not Tua kind of just needed to toughen up a little bit. Like, I've seen people say that. Brother, when you are the head coach of a football team and your team drafts a quarterback with the 5th overall selection, part of your job, part of your responsibilities is to be able to manage personalities, whether you like it or not. Like, that's part of your job. And if your 5th overall pick isn't responding to the type of love that you're showing him, lack thereof, love, then maybe you've kind of got to figure out a better way to communicate with him. You've got to figure out a better way to get the most out of him. He fell way short of those expectations. He fell way short of being able to manage that relationship. I like Tua coming out and saying, Bro, this guy was a D-bag, man. Like, he was a D-bag.
Yeah, I think it's like, look, I think this is it is time where Tua, he got a lot of cash and now he's kind of cashing in on his receipts because people thought that he wasn't going to make it. Whether he's going to, end up winning the games that he's going to have to win, that's going to be another part of this show we'll get into, obviously. Right. But him getting to have his victory lap of making it, because, like, look, for people who are saying he's not tough, like, yeah, obviously he is very tough. He's been through a lot of adversity physically throughout his career that he's been able to get through. But
Tobin, Nick Saban was his head coach. Like, this idea that Tua's not tough. Like, Nick Saban was his coach. Nick Saban, we know, is one of the biggest hard asses ever as a coach. But there's a difference between being a hard ass and being able to connect with your player and knowing how to be a hard ass with X player. And clearly what Brian Flores was doing, which was like demeaning Tua. And bro, the fact that he sent him a text message that he sucked.
Don't blow it, apparently, was one of the things too.
I mean, what?
Yeah, that is that type of stuff. We were just like, Jesus, like that to me is not coaching. That's just being a jerk. And I think that's the thing that probably cost Flores in the end. Not just that it was the Tua thing, but dude was firing coaches left and right. Apparently wasn't speaking to assistants. Really kind of felt like he was trying to do everything by himself. And yeah, as Mike McDaniel has been vocal about, like, part of the job is managing people, and he felt like he was just kind of going to run this whole thing himself. Here was Brian Flores. He had to address these comments this week, and this was him reacting to being called a terrible person by Tua to the Le Batard show.
The words you used were terrible person. I'm just curious how that hit you when you saw it.
Look, I'm human, so that hit me in a way that I wouldn't say it was positive for me, but at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that? How can I be better? And that's really where I'm at from that standpoint. Do I feel like that's me? No, but how can I grow from that situation and create a world where that's not, the case that anyone says that about Brian Flores?
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely is probably under some public pressure when he had to, address this stuff. But also, I think there has to be some reflection about, like, all right, this thing has been a very focal part of Tua's story since I've left, is that I left this guy shaken of his abilities. Maybe you did think that he sucks, but I mean, obviously he has flourished statistically since you've been gone. So you did have a misstep there. Maybe one of them was just Chan Gailey. I don't know, but you did have a big misstep there, and went to a point where, we're I don't know. I think right now he's kind of scrambling, because this is going to be almost a direct reflection in a lot of ways of, I know he's got a lawsuit pending with the league right now too, but if he's really ever going to, once that's all settled, will he ever get a head coaching job again? He better show some reflection, because there'll be, if he's going to run an organization one day and have a young quarterback under his mind, and he's rats off a ship after 3 games, like, you're not going to be able to be running an organization like that.
This whole thing was eye-opening to me, because, Tobin, I know over the years now, we've had some insight into what really went wrong with Brian Flores here, but I saw a lot of reaction on social media, especially, right? It's easy now to take the side of Flores sucked. Flores, look what he did to Tua. Well, like, I saw a lot of that where, like, people are just playing the result here.
Yeah.
I'll take everybody back to Tobin. I don't know how you felt, but the day Brian Flores was fired, the Dolphins, I think they lost their final regular season game that year, or they won it, but they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, they missed the playoffs, but they had a winning record.
Right. And I think they were 9-8. They won that final regular season game. I remember leaving the stadium that day, working the broadcast, saying, all right, well, like, Flores is safe, Like, it didn't cross my mind that he'd be fired. And then it's Black Monday, right? The next day, we come into work, and Brian Flores was the first coach fired that morning. Literally, like, the first report we got from Adam Schefter was Brian Flores gets fired. And I remember 99% of people, their reaction was, wow, that's surprising. That I didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because most of us thought that Brian Flores was a pretty good head coach. Like, were there shortcomings, no playoff seasons, all that stuff. But for the most part, I feel like we all thought Flo was a pretty good head coach. But to see what was happening now behind the scenes and to see just how vitriol got between him and Tua and how he was doing everything he could to keep Tua from flourishing, people around the league are going to look at that, man, and say, yeah, what the hell is this guy doing?
But here's the interesting thing about it, Solana. In a roundabout way, what's funny about that, and we got to get to break, and we'll get to some more angles of this. But the interesting thing about this is, if he doesn't drop the bomb on the Dolphins with the lawsuit, Tua might not be the Dolphins quarterback because they might have gone back into the well of Tom Brady and Sean Payton. So, like, in a weird way, like, they fired him with what seemed like a plan to bring in this Hall of Fame duo. Flores drops the bomb on them, so they get rounded into this whole tampering thing, and then they have to scramble and go get this weirdo coach who now looks like, Mr. Miami, Papi Chulo with the glasses, which maybe doesn't happen if Flores doesn't blow up their entire plan in the first place, and they get busted for tampering. And so now the scramble is, well, now they have to go with Tua, and they have to fix him. So it's got yeah, I get it. It's a salacious story. It's got a lot of angles. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
But now the question is, like, all right, well, how much more do we hang on to this? And then when Tua does face the media again, like, is there walk back of this? How much is this a thing? Is this a distraction? We'll get into all that. We'll take a break. More Game Day Uncensored back after this.
This hurricane season, keep it on AM 560 Sports.
way to listen to WQAM, the free Odyssey app. Download it today and make us your favorite station. Same great shows, same great games. Plus, you can use the rewind feature and listen to anything you missed. Hurry!
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Tobin and Solana here with you. Game Day Uncensored, taking you guys up till a 7:30 kickoff. Miami Dolphins taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's get to our player to watch, which is brought to us by our Southern Lexus dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Solana, is there somebody in particular you're watching tonight that's got your attention? Who is that person?
So are you saying not Mike White or Skylar Thompson?
It can be whoever you want. I don't want to I don't want to take anything away from you. Who is? I mean, if it is, Skylar Thompson or Mike White, I understand it's an important game for the both of them.
No, and just because I'm a sucker for points in preseason, since we haven't seen many, how about Jeff Wilson Jr.?
Yep.
Just because it seems like he's on the bubble right now. It might even be on the outside looking in of that bubble. You mentioned it earlier. We all know he's McDaniel's guy. McDaniel brought him in after spending time with him in San Francisco. And I feel like he's been good for the Dolphins over the past couple seasons. So to me, like, he can kind of make a case for himself, very much like Ahmed did last year in the preseason, especially in that preseason finale, where he's like, hey, you're thinking of cutting me? Nah, Jack. Like, nah, maybe might want to reconsider that, Mike. So I think it's Jeff Wilson Jr. for me.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one, too, because Jalen Wright didn't play last week. I don't know what his status will be for today, but if he goes out there and gets carries, I mean, like, he's a shoo-in. Obviously, they traded up for him. He's looked good in his debut, so we're all excited about Jalen Wright, and that's kind of what put Jeff Wilson in this position because Ahmed got cut this week. I don't know really what Jeff could do. Like, you're telling me like Mike McDaniel, even if Jeff Wilson, had a stinker today, I mean, he literally knows this guy back to North Texas, knows this guy back to scouting him. I think the question's probably, do they think that, Chris Brooks can get through a season? Do they think Chris Brooks can be a reliable player? Because he knows he can rely on Jeff Wilson, but younger legs, maybe a little more physical. Chris Brooks, I mean, you're talking about probably the two like dog runners of this team, like the guys who will go between the tackles, will bring an attitude when they run. That's Chris Brooks and Jeff Wilson. You love both of those mentalities that they bring. So yeah, that's definitely an interesting one because it does feel like, one of them's got to go. And, Jeff, if Jeff's out on the market, I can't imagine there's not a team that's not going to want him. I feel like, someone's going to need a little bit of running back depth that he can provide because he's shown you he's an NFL player.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like he'll have a landing spot for sure. He's one of those guys. He gets cut, he's going to have a landing spot. But it is interesting, right? Like, can Chris Brooks be the guy that we need him to be? If it's a short yardage situation, like, can Mike McDaniel be certain that, hey, you give him the ball, he's going to get you those 2-3 yards? I think Jeff Wilson Jr. has proven to you like he's capable of that role, but we also know the Dolphins like to throw the ball a little bit too, Tobin. So, and Jeff Wilson Jr. has been decent out of the backfield catching passes too, especially that first year when he came to Miami. I think one of his first plays was catching a pass and getting in for a score in at Gillette Stadium. So I don't know, like that one's interesting to me. Also, Marcus May was somebody I thought they were bringing in as a safety. I thought Marcus May was going to make the roster when they first signed him. But now, like, because Nick Needham can kind of play safety, he's kind of like the the guy who can play safety, can play corner. Like, what do you need him to do? It almost seems like because of the cornerback depth that they have, like Nick Needham's going to be a safety technically on this 53-man roster. And now like Marcus May, Patrick McMorris, they're probably going to get cut on Tuesday.
Yeah, Patrick Morris had a really great first performance too. So like obviously I'd imagine they want to keep him around on the practice squad. I don't know if anyone's going to poach him, but he just, I think in that first, like, would he lead the team in tackles? So certainly, like, we heard his name a ton, and after what was what has been a pretty quiet camp, I don't know if he's, put themselves in the likes of definitely finding himself a roster spot, but I think that, if you draft a guy, he's shown out pretty good. You certainly want to keep him, I think, in the organization. So definitely, those are some interesting ones. You went vet on that one. I thought you were going to go younger. So. But nothing wrong with that. Listen, it's your player to watch. It's no judgment here. I'm all for it. So the other element to this Brian Flores thing, and then we'll kind of put a bow on it, because I honestly think that's kind of my next thing on this, Solana, is I don't know if Tua is going to talk today. Probably depends on if he plays, if he speaks to the media, and that's probably gonna deal with some follow-ups. I'm curious whether or not he's going to walk back the terrible thing just because Tua is a very nice man. And I think probably thought, it came out strong. And I know he didn't come out and say, quote, Brian Flores was a terrible person. Like, it was kind of a roundabout explanation of the difference between Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel that had the word terrible in it. So that's what got labeled to Brian Flores and was in all the headlines. So I think that if I had to guess, Tua is probably going to walk that back and all that stuff. But I've been saying this, Solana, like, we're good. I'm capped off on Tua's feelings, like, I think that he's gotten to the finish line, like he's gotten to, I got over my jerk head coach. I have the guy I love. I love that Mike McDaniel and Tua have an awesome relationship. I think it's awesome, but I also feel like we've covered every single element and angle of how awesome Tua and Mike McDaniel's relationship is. And we have now covered every single element and angle of how bad Brian Flores was to Tua. I think it is time to kind of move on from this, dude. And if this was, like you said, if this wasn't final week of the preseason and we were getting ready for action football, I don't know if it captures the imagination, the attention of the sports world like it did this week, because it was such a quiet week and the Olympics just ended and there's nothing going on. Yeah, this was kind of the perfect storm for it to be a national story. But I do think that, like, once Tua talks about it for the last time, I kind of feel, unless he just doubles down and is like, nah, bleep the mother bleeper, which would be kind of shocking to me. I kind of feel like we've touched every basis with this, and it's almost time to put this storyline to bed.
Once Flores seemed to have some, I don't know, like remorse, but definitely some thoughts about it where he probably felt a little bad, I think, right? Like, he feels a little bad about the way it went down. Like, he almost, to me, seemed like he was kind of apologizing.
Well, yeah, the last time publicly he was asked about it was, I think, on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was like just blatantly lying through his teeth, where he's like, Tua and I, great relationship. Go ask Tua. Yeah. Because I think he knew at that time, maybe a meeker, publicly speaking Tua wouldn't have done what he did on it, which, speaks to his growth and speaks to his comfort level of, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's maturation. I don't know if it's being a dad. I don't know if it's, I have generational wealth now. I don't know why, but I think at a time when Brian Flores said that, he knew he had a public opponent who wasn't going to fire back shots publicly. Tua, remember, we were all shocked when he told Ryan Clark to keep his name out of his mouth last year.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of like a whoa moment. It's been a slow grow. I think it's just probably natural maturation. But yeah, I think that it's kind of time. I think it's a time to put a bow on this, because he's got bigger, loftier goals, and he's got bigger responsibilities than old beasts with old coaches.
Listen, man, at the end of the day, if over the next 2-3 years, Tua doesn't win playoff games and he doesn't get this team over the hump, like, nobody's going to feel bad for him anymore that his first head coach was mean to him.
Absolutely not.
Right now, I mean, we can sit here because it's preseason And it's kind of still like a fresh wound, because it wasn't really that long ago. And we're only in year 3 of the McDaniel era. But yeah, I mean, it sucks that happened to Tua. He also just got paid like all these accolades he's reached now, where he's an established quarterback in the NFL. He's paid like a top quarterback in the NFL. He's had the type of season that you've been hoping he'd have. Finally, it all came to fruition for him. So yeah, I mean, we can kind of reflect on that entire situation and say, man, that sucked for him. Like, poor dude that he went through that. 2 years from now, if the Dolphins are 26, 27 years without a playoff win, nobody's remembering this story going, oh, poor Tua Tagovailoa. So I'm with you. Like,
yeah, because he already got, and the part of that is he's gotten to the other side, right? Like, he not only came over, I don't know if mental abuse is too strong a way to put it, but came over a lot of mental obstacles, came over confidence issues, came over physical issues with a busted hip, came over physical issues with concussion issues, and got to the other side. And great, congratulations. The guy has gotten to, the pot of gold, and who doesn't love that story? That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
However, now comes the part of, now the fans want their results. And now the fans want, it's great. You've now led in statistical categories. You have led in passing. You have led with exciting us with bombs to Tyreek Hill. Now go beat a team over 500, please. Now go crush the Bills. Now I need you to go and show that you're going to back up all this investment that you have gotten to the other side. But now comes the fans are expecting their performance on the big stage.
I'll tell you what, though, man. If Tua Tagovailoa wins his team a couple playoff games this year, Tobin wins an AFC title, I want Tua smoking that Brian Flores and Changeli pack. Throw that cigar in your mouth and just rip those mother bleepers. Please, give me Petty Tua. Give me Petty Tua on the mountaintop. Please give me Petty Tua on the mountaintop.
That's the next step, though. Like, he's got to do it and back it up with big-time winning and big-time games. And we'll get to this coming up on the other side, because the owner kind of gave voice to that last preseason game. Stephen Ross letting everybody know what he expects with his team this year that he has spent a whole lot of money on. We'll get to that. Game Day Uncensored rolls on after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toy.
WQAM Miami, WPOW HD2 Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey sports station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
2 weeks from Sunday, it'll be week 1 of the NFL regular season, which we're all looking forward to. Tonight, though, is our last look at the preseason Dolphins, the third and final game before it all starts for real. Injuries have been a topic this week. River Craycraft will be sidelined for a bit, according to Mike McDaniel.
It was an upper body injury. It will be some time for sure. It doesn't appear to be season ending, but it will be some time.
Jordan Poyer fractured his thumb, but he's played in pain before and is ready to do it again.
Yeah, I'll be straight. I've dealt with a lot of pain in my past injuries before. I had a lacerated kidney, had some knee issues, but I'll be straight. Excited to get that back out there and play it again.
We're ready for football. The Fins in Tampa Bay for preseason game number 3 versus the Bucs. We've got the latest with Tobin and Solana on Gameday Uncensored. The pregame show for real Miami football fans on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Gameday Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, Game Day Uncensored continues here as we get closer to kickoff. Miami Dolphins taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium. As Tobin here with you alongside Solana. We get you ready for the preseason finale. I did see video, Solana, Tyreek Hill. They did make him walk into the building tonight. They did, he's there. I'm sure he's just going to be, I'd imagine he's just watching some football. Maybe they'll shock us. And there'll be some more action tonight, but I would doubt it.
No chance. No chance, Tobin.
I would agree.
Absolutely no chance.
Yes, last week on the preseason broadcast, Stephen Ross was interviewed by Kimbo Camper and Steve Goldstein. And, amongst the fodder of, hey, you have great facilities and all that, Stephen Ross let it be known that he does think the Miami Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders if healthy. And, I think first of all, it's interesting because not because an owner has high expectations, but he doesn't speak very much anymore. Stephen Ross used to talk to the media a lot more, would step in it from time to time. And goes out there publicly. They have given out the big contracts to Tua, gave out the extension to Jalen Waddle, gave Tyreek Hill new money after just trading for him a couple of years ago. So the faces of the franchise have all been paid, and now the boss is expecting big-time results. What did you make of his comments, Solana, last week on the preseason broadcast?
I thought they were light, to be 100% honest. Like, I thought he should have said, I want this team to win a Super Bowl. Like, I want them to win a Super Bowl, because, listen, man, we've talked about it. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here. I'm not giving you a hot take. Like, they've got to produce enough with just win a playoff game. Like that to me is not going to be good enough anymore. So I think that's the owner who kind of has fallen in line with everything his GM has put together here. And I'm not saying he did it begrudgingly. Like I think Stephen Ross likes this team. It's certainly the most talented team the Dolphins have had probably in his tenure. Probably my lifetime, Tobin. Probably since I can remember. So hey, go win meaningful football games. Go win an AFC title. Go put yourself in that situation. I gave the quarterback that you drafted all the money that he wanted. He's a top 3 paid quarterback in the NFL. I've given Tyreek Hill all the money he could ask for. He's gotten the most guaranteed money ever for a wide receiver. Now it's time to show us that what we're giving you all that money for is worth it. And the only way to do that is, like he said, like being a team that can compete for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it has been interesting. And, you never know how these seasons are going to play out. Like, you have to get to these, head against the wall arguments with Leroy all the time because he's like, well, we got to just play it out. I'm like, well, that's great radio for 17 weeks. Like, but we are in the expectations business of, hey, this is a team that was very fun last year and had a lot of, sensational plays, but they also were called out all year, and they were called frauds, and they were said that they only beat up the bad teams, and they said that they couldn't be good teams. And all of that came true. Now, there were injuries. Okay. Yeah, there were injuries. There were injuries at the end of the season, and that's fine. But the question is, are they going to get over the hump this year? And what is over the hump? Is it just getting that playoff win, that elusive playoff win that they haven't had in Stephen Ross's tenure as owner? He hasn't had a playoff win. Not since he's owned the team. He's built more practice facilities than he has playoff wins. Like, he's put more canopies on Hard Rock Stadium than he has playoff wins. He's had many an F1 race in the middle of Miami Gardens than he has playoff wins. So, yeah, I get the man thirsting for it and jonesing for it and wanting to see his football team do some real winning because he hasn't seen it. It's been a long damn time since this organization has done anything for real. And, I had high expectations last year. I thought it was a bad job by them and an underperformed by them. I'll give them the reasons for it. That's fine. Okay. We can give the reasons for it that, the defense got hurt and all that stuff. Fine. That's cool. But it's, you can't sit here and say that it didn't sting after having the 1 seed in your hand, having the division in your hand, having the 2 seed all in your hand, to it all falling apart and you having to go to the tundra and lose to the eventual world champs.
It's also the way it happened, right? Because you're right. Everything was in your hand, but it wasn't really taken from you. It was almost kind of gifted away by the Dolphins. You had the 14-point lead against the Titans. I don't want to revisit all this stuff, but I guess we kind of have to. And you blew the game. You just blew it. You blew it. And then you have a lead at halftime against the Bills, and you had like 72 yards of total offense, and you put up a big donut in the second half. You blew the division. So all those things were just so Dolphins. They were so Dolphins, but that can't happen with this team. And, you bring up Stephen Ross where he's thirsting for it. Bro, It's not for a lack of trying that he hasn't fielded a legit winner. Look, you can say a lot of things you want about this Dolphins team over the years. I certainly have. I don't shy away from criticizing the team. You can say a lot of things you want about Stephen Ross. Fine, right? Like guys he's hired in the past. But the one thing you can't knock Stephen Ross for is him using resources to better this organization all around, like the stadium, throwing money around. You're shaking your head, Tobin. It's the truth. It's the truth. Like this dude has put everything he possibly can into building winner. Has he made mistakes? Yes. But it's not like he's being a cheapo and then kind of pointing the finger at the guys in charge saying, hey, why haven't you delivered for me? Like he's put the resources in place to go win now more than ever after the money he just dished out.
I don't ever discredit a rich guy for spending his money. Congratulations. He's a gazillionaire and he spends a lot of money on his sport that is going to give him 10-fold, 20-fold over the value of his franchise. Because look, there are cheap ass owners who aren't doing it. You get all those report cards at the end of the year. You want to know who fails all of them? The Chiefs.
Right.
Like it takes getting the elite quarterback, and that's going to mask a lot of what you do as an organization. But Solana, he's also whatever fold you want to put on it. Yeah, he spent a lot of money. He's also gotten busted for tampering and lost first-round picks. Maybe an overzealous. Maybe
like
overzealous.
You
do?
You
got busted. You lost a first-round pick. How could you like that?
Yeah, but you got busted because your coach is a buster. Like, your coach is a rat. That's not his fault.
It absolutely is. You got to do business a little bit cleaner than that.
It's not his fault that his own guy ratted him out. Like, you would
literally is his fault. You got to do that things with more grace. What are you talking about, dude? Of course it's his fault.
Oh, Brian Flores, who was under the Patriots umbrella while Bill Belichick Well, Bill Belichick was literally cheating for years. Never had a problem with it. But he draws the moral line at Steven Ross.
He's got to be
serving charcuterie for Tom Brady. I mean, come on.
He's got to be the first owner in history that got busted for tampering twice. One time he did it going after Harbaugh, and he had to give Tony Sparano an "I'm sorry" contract. This guy is like the least discreet owner of all time when it comes to getting somebody he wants to hire. He stinks at it.
Yeah, but rich guys are, they're a little less self-aware than everybody else, Tobin. A little less self-aware. But I'm sorry, like this Brian Flores, he saw Bill Belichick recording practices, never had a problem with any of that. He saw Tom Brady deflating footballs, never had a problem with any of that. Just towed the company line. All of a sudden, I'm not eating on a boat charcuterie with Tom Brady. No.
Okay.
Hey, Roger Goodell. That's where he drew the moral line, this Brian Flores.
I don't believe it was hold on. I don't believe it was a moral line. Here's what I think would happen, the original Brian Flores thing. I think he thought Tom Brady stunk. Because if you remember his last year in New England, he wasn't that great. That's a miss by Brian Flores. And I'm sure that's what ended up being the thing that has him getting fired, because they're like, oh, we're going down the Flores train. Tom Brady's like, we got that Flores still there, the guy who thinks I sucks. He goes, no, Sean Payton. Yeah, that was a big whip by Brian Flores. However, it is still the second time that this owner's gotten busted.
Yeah, but he's trying. I mean, I like that. I like my owner trying to cheat a little. I really do. Hey, you play by the rules. Guess what? You're the New York Jets. You're the laughingstock of the NFL. Yeah, you got a little cute every now and then, Tobin. You got
lost the first-round pick.
Come on. What was he going to do with Chris Greer with that? Another Noah Benogany?
Chop Robinson. No Chop Robinson. No Jalen Waddle. No Jalen Phillips. These are all names we think are very important to the team. Do we not? Crazy, man. Anyway,
what happened?
Here was Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel was asked about Stephen Ross's expectations and comments. Here's what the Dolphins head coach had to say.
During the game, the team owner, Stephen Ross, was interviewed by CBS. And among the things he said, if we stay healthy, we're certainly a contender for the Super Bowl. Do you like those types of comments?
Absolutely. I think that means I think from a team perspective, a lot of times people are I don't know, hesitate to talk about goals, in case you don't achieve them. I don't really operate that way. There's a lot of steps before that. So I don't think, necessarily it's on our guys' minds right now, because our goals are creating our standard and then winning the next game. And then you try to do the division, and then you try to win the conference, and you try to win the Super Bowl. So, but I like the building, and including the owner having the mindset of, let's be bold, don't be afraid of anything. We're going to compete, and that I think that brings out the best in people. I'm excited that he, I think that means he believes in the program, right?
Hard to say.
You better believe in the program.
Surprised Mike McDaniel just be like, actually, what we were doing is we were going to make this really, really heartbreaking on Stephen Ross last year, so the win feels all the better this year. Just like I'm doing with my backup quarterbacks. I'm making life more difficult on Stephen Ross.
You think Mike McDaniel likes that, though? I guess it doesn't matter, right? Like, the expectations are there anyways. But
does he like it? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think anybody who has a boss, do you like that your boss? I guess so, because otherwise, I guess your boss thinks you're a complete bum. I think the guys that, he has no expectations from, I don't think your bosses ask much of the guys that they don't expect things from. So I don't think he minds. I just think it's what else is he going to say? I think he better be like, yeah, he's right. I think the thing that's interesting about it, though, is Stephen Ross has been a little bit squirrely about when he pulls the trigger on guys. And I'm not suggesting Mike McDaniel's on the hot seat, because I do think the guy's a good coach. I think he is a good coach. But if they don't win a playoff game this year, what will the owner's reaction to that be? I'm gonna imagine not great, Solana.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't think he's on the hot seat, but he's definitely like in that stratosphere of you better produce, bro. You better produce. Because we like the new look, and we like all the cutesy interviews and press conferences. But that gets old after you don't win, right? Like, everything's fun while you're winning. That gets old after you don't win, especially in your third year. What's interesting to me, though, is like, remember last year Tua was asked about that? I can't remember exactly what week it was, but he was asked, like, do you consider, like, would you say that you guys have your eyes on the Super Bowl, something along those lines? And he's like, yeah, like that's what we want
Yeah,
to
I
do.
believe his
That's what we
quote
want
was,
to talk about.
yeah, I think his quote was, "We're not afraid to talk about the Super Bowl around here."
Right. Well, and that was kind of a big story. Remember last year, like should they be saying those things? And I remember Mike McDaniel kind of taking the same approach he's taking now, which is like week by week, blah blah blah, the coach speak thing. But
the coward's
way.
way.
That's not the coward's way. I mean, listen. If Mike McDaniel comes out and says, "Yeah, we're trying to go to the Super Bowl," I mean, then we can do what we did with Tua last year, which is blast them when they don't get there. So I don't think it's a coward's way.
No,
like
the way we're acting, we should put up a banner for a winning wild card weekend. It's the way we're acting right now.
I mean, you have a lot of Dolphins fans, Tobin, saying just win a playoff game. That should be the expectation. Win a playoff game. I'm with you, bro. One playoff win, not enough, man. I want the playoff win. Don't get me wrong. I want the playoff win. But it's not enough for this team. It's just not. Best roster we've seen in over 24 years. Go win more than a playoff game. Get to the AFC title game.
Well, it is interesting looking at the AFC East. A lot of those teams still ahead of the Dolphins in divisional odds. We'll get into some of that. And more to come here on Game Day Uncensored as we wind down to the final preseason game of the summer. Back with more after this.
Dolphins preseason is underway, and we've got daily updates from
Be heard on the free Odyssey app. Don't miss out. Download it today and make WQAM your favorite station.
Game Day Uncensored continues on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Edmore's is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back to Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Brendan Tobin here with you alongside Alejandro Solana, Dan Day. Producing this program, you got Dan Day coming up with Game Day Uncensored post-game edition as Dolphins and Buccaneers get going here at 7:30. Todd Bowles is just saying to their radio broadcast, Solana, that a lot of their starters are sitting out tonight.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
Sounds like we're in for a doozy.
No Baker Mayfield show?
I don't think he's played at all this preseason, Baker Mayfield. Although I know
a lot of guys haven't. A lot like Aaron Rodgers isn't going to take a snap, Tobin. I know we're going to talk about the AFC East in a little bit, but a lot of guys haven't.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was saying this week, he's like, this is the toughest camp I've had in 7-8 years. That he's had one of the more taxing camps. It is interesting. We've talked about this with the Dolphins, and we were talking about their Super Bowl expectations. It is interesting, Solana. The Vegas has them as a pretty sizable 3 spot on the betting lines for winning the AFC East. They have them at plus 240. The Jets are the favorite at plus 155, and the Bills, who have been the reigning champs, are plus 175. So pretty tight there. With, of course, the New England Patriots, if any O'Malley's or O'Keefe's are keen on taking a flyer, plus 2,400 for them to win the AFC East. Their win total this year is set at 9.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm surprised that I'm not. I figured a lot of this is quarterback driven. Obviously, people are expecting Aaron Rodgers back. They're a New York team. He's got a lot of popularity, but it is interesting, man. I'll give you this example. Like for the Dolphins, I'm excited Jalen Phillips is going to be back, and it seems like he's beating science. But I'm not expecting a double-digit sack season from him. Just the fact that he makes it back out on the field and could be some kind of a deterrent, I'm thrilled about. So this idea that Aaron's going to come back and just light it up for the Jets, I'm just very skeptical of. I mean, from my standpoint, this is still the Bills division. The Dolphins got to run through it. They got to knock the champs out until otherwise. And that's the guys they got to really be worried about. I don't really know what the respect is the Dolphins are supposed to have for the Jets going into this year.
Yeah. I mean, here's the way I agree with you, by the way, but when you bring up Jalen Phillips, my response to that would be it's not the best comparison because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on the first drive of their season last year. JP tore it at the end of November. So it's a little different. You know what I mean? He's had over a year or exactly a year to rehab it. With that being said, I don't understand what people are doing when they're saying Aaron Rodgers is going to look like Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles tear who literally has not taken a snap in a year, and he's supposed to just step right back out on that field. By the way, his first snaps will be in the exact same spot Monday Night Football 1 year to the date later against the San Francisco 49ers, the defending NFC champs, and that defense. I don't really know what to expect from him, and I feel like the Jets go as far as he takes them. They're talented.
Oh, yeah, of course.
That roster is filthy, top to bottom, but they're not winning the division. They're not getting to the playoffs as Aaron Rodgers isn't playing at least 15, 16 games this year. I don't know what to expect from him. I've seen a lot of these QB lists that have Aaron Rodgers ahead of Tua Tagovailoa. And if you want to talk about career-wise, obviously, but we're talking about right now, who would you rather have to man your team under center? Even as somebody who a lot of people think is a skeptic of Tua Tagovailoa, I think that's an easy pick. I'm going with the guy who was 100% healthy last year and led the league in passing in a ton of statistics.
Yeah, I mean, Tua's had his own durability questions for sure, but I agree with you. But I mean, that's also a system thing. Like Aaron kind of is the system, and that's the interesting thing with the Jets is like, man, they're really at his whim, because it doesn't feel like him and Robert Saleh have like the most solid relationship, certainly with all the public contradiction that they've had. So it will be interesting to see, like, if things do go rough, how is that all handled? Where it does feel like, the Dolphins and the coaching staff, when we go to all these, talk about all these feelings and stuff, I think that's the benefit of supposing to have that, is like your coach and QB are in lockstep. That didn't bear fruit last year, certainly. I mean, like they had an awful ending to the year. So I guess we'll see. But it's just like, from my standpoint, I can't wrap my mind around the Dolphins having to overcome anybody else but Buffalo, because they went from 2 years ago feeling like they were really close with Buffalo to last year just getting absolutely smoked by Buffalo. And I think that's the disappointing thing, is like, can they get themselves in a spot where, like, all right, they've finally overtaken this thing that has just devoured them, mostly being on the back of Josh Allen, not even Stephon Diggs, just Josh Allen. Even when Josh Allen sucked, he was good against the Dolphins. So like, how do they conquer this thing? Maybe Christian Wilkins was the jinx. That's probably a bad theory.
That's an interesting. I mean, yeah,
That's a
I
bad
don't want
theory.
to. I don't want to call you out on it. But
That's a
I mean,
bad theory.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Maybe we needed Calais Campbell this whole time.
So you're saying you don't want your defensive stopper to grab Josh Allen's goods? Is that what you're saying?
I just think that, like, one testicle grab is enough when it comes to Josh Allen, and he kept going back to that well. Perhaps it just, it riled him up too much. Now, you let sleeping dogs lie. I think that Zach Sealer will just tackle him and not go towards the nether regions. And maybe that'll just lead towards a less aggressive Josh Allen. I don't know. No. But that's all the I don't know. And maybe I'm not giving enough of a healthy respect to an all-time great, but I am. Yeah, I got all the skeptical questions that you do with them, because their defense looks formidable. They've improved their offensive line. They certainly got weapons. They got a good running game. I don't know. There's just some, but it still feels like a big what if around them.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the Jets and whatever it is that you were looking at, like whatever website you were looking at, were the slight favorites. I saw the Bills on ESPN Bet, and I think on Hard Rock as well. I saw the Bills as favorites to win this division, and then I saw the Jets as number 2, pretty much like unanimously, and then Dolphins at number 3. But I will say, like, Dolphins Jets, the line is similar. I think I saw the Jets at plus 175 to win it. Bills were like plus 130, and then the Dolphins were like plus 190. So it's not like a large gap. I mean, I feel like most people you talk to say this could be a toss-up in the division, right?
Well, I think it's a good division. I don't think any of these teams are going to suck. I don't think unless there is an injury, I don't see a scenario where, unless the Bills just lost way too much, and I just think they're going to be a pretty conservative team that's going to try and run over everybody. Like that's the way I think that, because that's where they found success last year, is like they were kind of a time bomb. They fire Ken Dorsey, they get a little bit more conservative, and they run over everybody. I kind of feel like they're going to lean into that with not having the wide receiver power and having their tight ends and having James Cook. And that just feels like where their strength goes. I don't know if they have maybe all of their ducks in a row on the defensive side, but I feel like I made that mistake last year with them. And that's one that I got to, kind of hold back. And that's why I do think, like, people make fun of me this morning, but I was saying, like, week 2 is a statement game to me. I feel like I think the Dolphins got to come out there. I think they got to knock their block off, like, right off the bat.
Well, here's what I will say, Tobin. And calling week 2 a statement game is definitely a very good way to get under Leroy's skin. So hats off to you. But
I truly believe it. I do.
The Dolphins need to win their division games this year. Like, I know that goes without saying every year. I realize that. But just stick with me here. They get Buffalo week 2. Okay, statement game. They get New England right before their bye week 5. Then they get Buffalo early, so it's not snowball time in Buffalo just yet. Early November on the road. Like, take advantage of that. Then you get New England at home. You haven't even played the Jets yet. You're going to play the Jets December 8th, week 14, and then the final week of the season. The Dolphins need to win those games. Just looking at their schedule, they're going to get at Green Bay, home against the Jets, at Houston, versus San Francisco, at Cleveland, at New York. That's a stretch of 7 games right there. That is tough for any team. It doesn't matter if the Dolphins are elite, what happened last year. Like, for any team, that's a tough stretch of games where you're literally playing 5 of those 7 on the road, and your only home games are against the defending NFC champs and the New York Jets.
No, that end of schedule was like, hey, you know how you guys are always concerned about the December sprint? Watch the hardest December we're going to give you, December, January ever, and enjoy it. And good luck. Cleveland on a Sunday at the end of December, awesome. But
it kind of proves your point. We're like, okay, laugh off a week 2 game being a statement game, but hey, if you're not ready to go by week 2 on short rest Thursday Night Football, that could come back and bite your ass later on in the season when you go through this 7-game gauntlet.
Yep.
And you're going to look back at week 2 and say, maybe we should have taken care of business at home against the team that took it to us last year.
Game Day Uncensored continues after this.
This hurricane season, keep it on AM 5.
Just download the free Odyssey app to listen to all of our shows live or on demand. Plus, there's the cool rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime. Get it now and make WQAM your favorite station.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Ed Morse has your back. Ed Morse Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click edmoresawgrasscadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Tobin here with you alongside Solana. Gameday here with us as well. We are getting ready for Dolphins and Bucks, the preseason finale, the last exhibition game before your Miami Dolphins start the season in 2 weeks against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home. Get this thing going for the real deal here.
Football.
Oh, man, I can't wait. Cannot wait. So, it was interesting. All the fodder this week on the Brian Flores thing, which I'm not getting back into here. But on the Levitard interview with Tua, he actually had a revelation that I thought was kind of more interesting than the Brian Flores thing, because I know that Tua hated Brian Flores. And, obviously the Dolphins seemed like they were trying to get Tyreek Hill this 2,000-yard record last year. I didn't expect the QB to come out flat out and say, oh, no, we were gunning for that from the get-go. Here was Tua on the Levitard show talking about that goal last year.
Oh, I think we've all we've all established a good enough relationship to really know, okay, last year we were in a way really trying to help Reek get to that 200 or 2,000 yard mark. Right. I mean, it wasn't like we were trying to hide that, right? That was pretty obvious, trying to feed him the ball and whatnot. We all have a good enough relationship off the field to where Jalen can come up to me at any point, even in the games and whatnot, and tell me bro, I'm not messing with this. I need some shine too, and I can go up to Mike and say, hey, we need some more plays for X, in this drive or throughout this game. And Reek would be cool with that. Well, the cool thing about it was Jalen knew we were trying to do that for Reek, and he wasn't really he's like, dude, I'm just here to support awesome. Whatever I can do. If I get the ball, I'm making the best out of that opportunity and whatnot. So those guys, I mean, they make it easy, but they are tough. That doesn't mean they're easy, to have conversations with, because they are unique in their own sense of personalities as well.
There you go. Tua Tagovailoa on the Dan Levitard show this week with Stu Gatz and Chris Cody on the couch as well, of course. But yeah, what did you make of that, Solana? I thought that was a fascinating, Tua, he's honest. Tua, he's one of these guys, he'll say it like it is. But it was funny this summer when Tyreek Hill came out and said that 2,000 was a, quote, selfish goal. I was like, that's kind of a weird way to phrase it for something where the team does have to get, but you think back on Hard Knocks. I think it was probably evident at some point, but it really does feel like that was a season-long goal, which was something they were going after. I don't know if it ended up benefiting them, because it did feel like they almost became too Tyreek reliant last year.
Yeah, and they were. I every single pundit or every single analyst, the big question mark this year has been, how can the Dolphins offense evolve past, hey, is Tyreek Hill going to have 118 yards this game and a touchdown, right? And I think I'm not saying it's a massive concern, because I think this offense is very well-rounded. And then, you add the extra playmakers that they added this year. I'm hoping to see a much further growth of this offense. But Also, like Mike McDaniel's play calling. How's that going to look on first downs, on short yardage downs, and on third downs, right? Like when they need 3 or 4 yards. Hey, last year kind of felt like Tua was willing to throw the 25, 30-yard dart to Tyreek over the top on 3rd and 3 because they
good
would
option.
Yeah, it is. But they were always gunning for those yards, those big plays. And like sometimes you don't need the big play. You need the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-yard reception to continue a drive. So it was obvious that they were gunning for it. I'm with you though. Tua, kind of a tattletale, a little tattle Tua.
He is. Well, he is.
Tua.
He's very honest, which is great. It's great as from a media perspective for sure. But I thought that was interesting. First of all, I give credit a lot to Jalen Waddle for not being a baby about that because.
Well, I mean, he's hurt. I mean, Waddle's limping on the sideline half the time. Come on.
He was hurt, but he also it was a slow start for him last year. Like it was a slow burn, and I know he was dealing with stuff, but also forget what game it was. I think it was Carolina, but there was one game where Tyreek Hill went out and they went straight to Jalen Waddle the entire time.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh yeah, Jalen Waddle, awesome, also, and
it was a storyline last year. Literally, like I remember talking about it, you, me, and Omar, where we're saying, where the hell is Jalen Waddle? Like, what's happening? What's going on here? Where the hell is Jalen Waddle?
And I do wonder, because he was, the star of camp, especially the first 2 weeks before the little, minor injury flares up. Do they diversify that more? And clearly, there's going to be an emphasis bringing in Johnny Smith. I'm going to put Odell there for now in hopes that, he'll be part of this at some point this year, but that's my faith in that has unsurprisingly waned a little bit with the quiet summer and spring that he's had, and with really no practice, and Tua said not even running routes yet. So I am curious, what other, because everybody keeps saying, yeah, there's more wrinkles. We know the motion. People are saying, oh, they're going to crack down on it. Then the refs are like, no, that was just a lie from Mike Florio. And then, so I think the Dolphins will try and, spread the wealth a little bit more. And I think, the thing that I think is most interesting with this, with Tyreek is, he's broken the franchise record back-to-back years. He was a yard shy of 1,800 last year before getting hurt. But he's not the biggest guy. And I do feel like we saw, he got worn down a little bit. He took that nasty tackle on Monday Night Football. That was pretty illegal, but you have to wonder if you do have games where you can kind of reserve the tank, like you've been mentioning, like that durability at the end of the year, that might be the play is slow roll the bullets of Cheetah you go too early on.
Yeah, you can say that all you want, Tobin, but if Cheetah has 1,500 yards again with I don't know, 4 games remaining, I mean, they're gunning for it, brother. They just are. We can sit here and Tattle Tua can tell us all he wants about, yeah, Waddle was cool with it last year, and maybe and Tyreek was a little selfish. You're telling me he's at 1,500 yards again with 5-6 games remaining, or whatever it is, 3 games remaining, that he's not going to gun for it again? Come on. We know who these guys are. We know who these guys are.
Look, it's fun.
They've shown us.
It's a drug. Tua to Tyreek Hill is a drug. It's like nothing, especially with Harlan on the game.
Yeah.
Oh, I love a Harlan Tyreek Hill. He's got Hill
Week one, ladies and gentlemen.
The juices get flowing for that. But I don't know. I don't know if if it's prudent to do that now that Tyreek is getting older. You do want to have him, souped up for the games that are going to hopefully matter late in this year. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to see. But yeah, honest Tua, he strikes again. We'll get you your actives and inactives for this preseason finale. Who's in, who's out, as we get ready for kickoff Game Day Uncensored. Back after this.
Hi, this is Dan Day. The Dolphins, they're finishing up preseason and big.
Miami, WKIS HD2 Boca Raton, an Odyssey sports station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
It's another Game Day Uncensored.
Well, we're down to the last Dolphins preseason game of the year. The Finns are in Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs. Most of the regulars won't play, but there will be guys fighting for jobs, notably for Tua's backup. Mike McDaniel is putting the pressure on the contenders.
The approach that I've kind of taken is to create super difficult situations for both of them. And as that manifests, that's whether the play calling choice, the situations that I'm asking, maybe them to do certain things specifically to put them in difficult situations.
One of those vying for the job is Mike White, who responded to McDaniel's comments this way.
Once you let your mind start wandering to that, you're kind of screwed. So I've taken the approach of just whatever my plays are that day, play them out, lead your group, no matter who it is. It could be Tyreek and Jalen. It could be the rookies. It could be anybody.
The final tune-up for Week 1. Dolphins, Bucks up the highway. Time now to get into it with Tobin and Solana on Gameday Uncensored, the pregame show for real Miami football fans on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet. Edmore Sawgrass Chevrolet is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassChevrolet.com and see how you're backed by Morse when it comes to returning your lease. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Game Day Uncensored. Tobin and Solana here with you. Final couple of segments here before we get you over to Dolphins and Buccaneers as they get going from Raymond James Stadium. Final preseason game. Solana, got some news here on who is going and who is not. Our actives and actives brought to you by JM Lexus. It's the perfect time to catch the deal you've been waiting for as the Golden Opportunity Sales Event continues. Don't miss your opportunity to score even more now at JM Lexus. And no surprise here, Solana, but the people boots on the ground, Omar Kelly, Adam Beasley saying, Tua not playing tonight. In street clothes.
Yeah,
in
street clothes.
Warming up. Omar is implying that Mike White looks like he is going to get the start.
Going to get the start. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
All right, so we got that to keep an eye on in this QB2 battle.
So Mike goes the first half, Tobin, and then Skylar goes the second half. That's kind of what they've been doing, right? Just obviously the other way around.
One would think that's probably the way they're going to go. Man, the only other thing you can think of, I wonder, this is, if I have to go on reverse psychology squirrel mind that Mike McDaniel's doing, who's saying that he's making it his life miserable for his backups. The only thing I could say as an inclination, is there any shot that they're saying, hey, this is like your showcase because we're going to cut you, and maybe some other team around the league gives you a looky-loo. I don't know. I don't know what to read into it. I guess we'll find out after the game.
Can they trade Mike White? I'm obviously they can. I'm saying, would there be suitors for Mike White?
I mean, for what? What is anybody going to give you?
A
seventh rounder?
A seventh rounder in
2028?
Maybe like a bag of M&Ms or something. I don't know, man.
A conditional seventh rounder in 2030 for Mike White. No disrespect.
Love you, Mike.
Eric Ezukama has a boot on his left leg.
Yeah.
So he's not going today. That's not great. I'm seeing this picture from old Bobby Shoes. I think it's Shouse. Bobby Shoes on Twitter. Shout out. The other one is Patrick McMorris apparently has a boot on his leg as well, who, of course, had a great start to the preseason. And a lot of the reporters surmising that he's probably heading to IR for essentially
yeah.
a redshirt year.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to keep your draft picks, not stupid. I mean, that's essentially what Taj Washington is doing right now. I don't even know what his injury is. But that was like before camp. They said Taj Washington IR, no rookie year, which is kind of a bummer because a lot of people said that the USC wide receiver was going to be like one of the steals of the draft, and we never really got to find out. I talked to his coach, Lincoln Riley, when I was, strong-armed into going to Indianapolis, and he was like, "Oh, that's my favorite." He's like, legitimately one of my favorite players ever, and I was bummed. He was like, "Oh, we never got to see him."
Yeah. I mean, 6th and 7th round pick though, I'm not losing sleep over not seeing those guys this year. No offense, Tobin. I know you're hyped up. I heard what Lincoln Riley told you. Like, I know you're hyped up about it. I'm not losing any sleep over those guys.
Who doesn't love a late round draft pick? Steal,
like surprise story.
Yeah.
I'm with you. This is not the year for that though. I'm sorry, it's just not. This is not the year for that.
No Cinderella stories for you.
None. I know who I want to lead me this year.
What about Storm Duck?
Well, okay, Cinderella story right now because the rest of the secondary and quarterbacks are basically in wheelchairs all camp. Like, I don't expect to see too much of Storm Duck during the regular season.
I need a Storm Duck pick 6 today. That's what I need.
Oh, yes.
Here was Anthony Weaver earlier in the week on both of his young, highly touted corners. Him and Isaiah Johnson both playing really well in the absence of the starting cornerbacks. Here was Anthony Weaver on Storm Duck and Isaiah Johnson.
They're very different in terms of skill set, right? I think Isaiah's big, tall, and long. Storm's a little bit shorter, but he's quick, has great long speed. But all those young guys, you can throw Jason Maitre, right? Patrick Morris, that young defensive back group. I tell you what, they're here early every morning. They're doing everything they can to try to digest as much information as possible. And typically when that happens, there's a little bit of paralysis through analysis. But these guys have been able to take that information and then have it translate onto the field fairly quickly. So, man, I tell you what, I'm not counting any of those kids out to potentially help us this season. We'll see how the roster shakes out and things like that. But however it shakes out, those kids should have zero regrets about the work they've put in thus far.
Wow. There you go. New defense coordinator Anthony Weaver with some high praise for the undrafted DBs on his squad who have been doing really great work, really great work, and seem like they've fit in, and everybody is now. It's a deep place. You got to make the roster because you already got Ramsey, you already got Kendall Fuller, you already got Kader Kahu, you got I don't know, Ethan Bonner's kind of up in the Ethan Bonner's been the toast of everybody.
It's Siren Neal or Saran Neal.
Special teams ace.
Cam Smith.
Yep. It's tough. It's tough sledding. Could any of those guys, have they been too highly touted that people are going to want to poach them? Everybody says, you can never have enough DBs. As the Dolphins learned last year, apparently you can never have enough anything because they just kept losing bodies on defense. But yeah, it's an interesting one, man. There's a lot of good candidates there in that secondary. And now you got all these young guys coming up. Could any of those guys supplant one of the veterans? That's gonna be a tough one. I'm not sure. You'd probably say only and if they would, you'd say probably for the 53, probably only one of them. I couldn't imagine them both making it.
No shot. By the way, you said you want to Storm Duck pick 6. So I just took a little gander to see if there's any prop bets tonight. Dolphins defensive touchdown. Unfortunately, none. There's no Dolphins defensive touchdown prop bet tonight for this game.
I love the Hard Rock app, but it's the props on preseason stink.
Yeah, they do, but they don't really have prop bets.
I know.
There's really no prop bets at all.
I know. It disappoints me. What else am I tuning into preseason for? Give me some action.
How do you feel? How do you feel about Dolphins 2 or more passing touchdowns?
Oh man, what are the odds?
Plus 150. I've been burned on this one twice already. I've bet this both.
Yeah,
games.
I feel like that's not enough juice for me. I feel like I need to get better return the way that they've been going.
I've been burned twice. I'm going to go for it. Third time's a charm. By the way, I didn't bet River Craycraft anytime touchdown because I didn't see it last week before I left out of the country. Of course, Mother Bleeper scores a damn touchdown, and now he's out for a couple weeks. So I have to wait on my River Craycraft touchdown prop bet.
Looks like Jeff Wilson's leading everybody out, getting everybody hyped up. Mike White is in that huddle, so Jeff Wilson, yeah, he's out there tonight. Looks like he's going to be toting the rock a lot tonight for this Fins bat. That guy's a gangster. If he doesn't end up on this roster, that's unfortunate because I just think like he's a great influence on that locker room, but it's like kind of a numbers game right now.
What'd you say? Showcase game for Mike White, maybe?
Yeah, same for him.
It's kind of a showcase game for him because, like, hey, he flashes, he proves I belong on this roster. Great. Yep. And if he doesn't, like, people around the league are there's going to be a spot for him right away. You know, that's one of those guys. Tuesday by 7 p.m. has a new contract.
We'll take a break here on Game Day Uncensored. When we come back, we'll predict the game balls for tonight's action. We'll give you the NFL slate for the weekend and give you some final thoughts on Dolphins and Bucks as they wrap up the preseason. Back with more after this.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota text line.
Downloaded the free Odyssey app and made WQAM your favorite station? Do it. Listen to us live or on demand and use the rewind feature to go back and listen to any part of any shows you might have missed.
Now, let's get back to Game Day Uncensored on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by Southern Lexus Dealers. Find your summer getaway at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event. Get offers on select models through September 3rd. Also sponsored by the free Odyssey app. Download it today to listen to us live or on demand. And by Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. When it comes to returning your lease, Edmore's has your back. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac is your lease return headquarters. Click EdmoreSawgrassCadillac.com. Ed Morse is a proud partner of the Miami Dolphins.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Game Day Uncensored here, 560 WQAM. Tobin and Solana here with you for a few more minutes as we get ready for the Dolphins preseason finale. I want to remind you guys, after the game today, Dan Day, he will have your post-game coverage of Game Day Uncensored. What time you go on, Dan? What is your coverage here tonight for Dolphins and Bucks?
Exactly at 10:30, and we're supposed to close up at 12:30. But sometimes I give you, as we say in the Cajun language, a little lagniappe, a little extra sometimes.
Ooh, I like that.
Wow.
I like that. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to tonight, Dan Day, in this battle of QB2?
Yeah, actually, I'm more excited about the rookies. I want to see Mo Kamara. I've heard a lot of good things about him. I want to see if he keeps up the high pace and talent that we've heard and seen from him so far. So I'm excited about Mo Kamara.
All right. Well, we'll see if Mo gives us another moment like he did in preseason game number 2 after sitting game number 1. How about you, Solana? Predict the game ball for tonight. We have a showdown between Mike and Skylar. It's been all the rage these last 2.5 weeks of training camp. Who's going to be QB2? Do you feel like tonight Mike White shines and he gets his chance to take back the reins, or is it Skylar's the limit? He does not have, it appears, his favorite weapon in Eric Ezukama, which is a big bummer. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do here because, I mean, Easy's another guy. He's been dealing with a ton of injuries. We see him every preseason. It seemed like lights the world on fire. Has had a neck, now dealing with something where he's in a boot. What do you make of tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just going to split the reps as they've been doing. So I think we're going to see Mike White first half, Skylar Thompson second half. It seems to be what they've done this entire time. My sleeper, though, Malik Washington for like player to watch. No Easy E. Hopefully no like pitch plays to Malik Washington, but let him go out, let him catch. Let's see what he can do. I'm gonna say Skylar Thompson, man. Game ball. I've been riding with my guy Skylar. I'm leading the Skylar Thompson brigade, so I'm gonna ride with him. Second half, big time showing against the Buccaneers scrubs.
Yeah, here is the list, by the way. These are the players according to Joe Shad, Palm Beach Post, who we do not expect to see tonight. No Tua. No Raheem Mostert, no HN, no Chris Brooks, no Alec Ingold, no Tyreek Hill, no Jalen Waddle. Eric Ezukama's in a boot. River Craycraft dealing with a shoulder injury. Braylon Sanders, Teron Armstead, Aaron Brewer, Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, Jonnu Smith, Julian Hill, Durham Smythe, and Tanner Connor, which I guess Hayden Rucci, today is your day, dude. Good luck. Go and do your thing, dude. This is your chance to make that P squad.
That's another guy, right? Tanner Connor, like kind of had a little moment during camp this year.
Well, he had a great first preseason game, then he got hurt.
Yeah. But Julian Hill has just been better. My guy, Julian Hill, man. That's my guy.
New George Kittle. That's what they're saying. Yep. Give him the Kittle tapes. That's always the sign of respect. Then on the defensive side, no Agba, no Deshaun Hand, no Zach Sealer, no Calais Campbell, no Benito Jones, no Jordan Brooks, no Jalen Phillips, no David Long, no Anthony Walker, no Jordan Brooks. Man, where's Sam Egwavon when you need him? No Duke Riley, No Jalen Ramsey, no Kendall Fuller, no Kader Kohu, no Cam Smith, no Javon Holland, no Jordan Poyer, no Marcus May, and Patrick McMorris is in a boot.
Marcus May is a little surprising. Is Marcus May hurt?
No, I don't think he is. I don't remember. It's hard to keep up, but I don't remember seeing anything about him. I think he's just a vet. I think like I think he might be set, dude. He might be set on that spot.
You think
they
he's
say
set? Really?
Yeah, especially if McMorris is
Holland, Poyer, Nick Needham, Elijah Campbell?
Elijah Campbell's going to play tonight. Elijah Campbell's a special teams wizard, so one would think his spot. Guys who are going to play tonight, according to the Palm Beach Post, Mike White, Skylar Thompson, Jalen Wright. So Jalen Wright will be back in there. That's good news. Jeff Wilson, Braxton Berrios, Patrick Paul, Rob Jones, Lester Cotton, Jack Driscoll, Ethan Bonner, Elijah Campbell. And then, of course, John Embry is going to be the head coach in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I guess that they're doing that in the case of Mike McDaniel is if he's not able to coach because he gets sick or something like that, not because he's on that yayo because of his new glasses. Just kidding. I know Mike McDaniel, famously sober. I'm just making a joke. Obviously, with him looking very much like a drug kingpin this week.
Right.
But he is but in case there's some reason he can't coach, he's given John Embry the old nod.
They've been doing that a lot though. Like that's not anything new. I think they did that last year. A lot of coaches have been doing that this year. Yeah,
something happens. You need somebody to take over, dude, for sure.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is our show for today, ladies and gentlemen. Game Day Uncensored. Of course, listen to Dan Day. He comes on 10:30 tonight for Game Day Uncensored post game. You guys can listen to that on the Odyssey app. You guys can watch it on our YouTube and Twitch page, the channel Miami 560 WQM. Thanks to everybody who joined us today, and we will talk to you week 1 before Dolphins and Jags. Enjoy the finale, everybody.
Well, folks, that's the wrap for the 2024 preseason edition of Game Day Uncensored.